All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Larkspur Planning Commission Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 meeting. First order of business is to do a roll call.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Swisher,
Here.
Commissioner Chalmers,
Here.
Commissioner Hull.
Here.
You have a quorum present.
Excellent, good. So second item is any public comment for matters that are not on the agenda. So anything people want to discuss that is not on the agenda regarding planning commission issues? All right, anything on Zoom? Nope, excellent. All right, community development directors reports.
The city did receive an appeal of the Planning Commission approval of 201 Hawthorne Avenue. And right now the applicant is trying to work with the neighbor at 203 to see if they could work out issues, but we'll let you know if it proceeds.
Okay, and we had some appeals for Francis and there was one other.
Right. So Francis was upheld by the city council and Owlswood was upheld by the city council.
Ooh, 2-0. All right, then the next is public hearings. And the first item on the agenda is 210 Hawthorne. Am I correct? Yeah, APN 020-251-16, application 25-014, Jeff Gustafson applicant. This is slope use permit to install a new pool in the south side yard of the property involving 185 cubic yards of excavation for the pool. The front yard setback variance for the pool, design review necessary for any discretionary land use permit, and a fence height exception for the 5-foot tall wood fence along the south side, and a new wood driveway entry gate up to 6'6". Now, this was continued from last time or? Okay, so then we will open it up for staff report.
We have Carrie Swanson, Carrie Swanson online. She's going to present the staff report.
Thank you, Elise. So yeah, I'll jump right into the staff report. This is continued from the last meeting. We have a couple of updates to share on this. We have noticed are bringing it back to you with a notice for a variance for that pool setbacks into the front yard. That is in addition to the existing entitlements of design review for the new pool and front yard fence, slope use permit for the pool as well, and the fence height exception for the front driveway gate. Again, the project is located on Hawthorne Avenue on the southeast side of the block towards Ward Street. You can see the location of the pool is the bocce court on the side yard of the property on the south side, and it currently has a wire fence along that side that would be replaced in the lower right image. This is just I'll keep going on the pool. Last time, the discussion regarding the slope permit was that the only excavation required is for the pool. The pool is proposed to be located where the current bocce court is, which is already a level ground. However, that location, as you can see in the slide, is within the front setback by a few feet. The edge of the pool, the patio does not count towards setback requirements, but the pool itself does. And the closest edge of that pool is 13 feet 3 inches, where a 20-foot setback is required for accessory structures. It does meet the side setback requirements. And so that is the request that they are coming back with you tonight. We have received comments from the 2 of the neighbors to the south. The third is a currently vacant property, as well as from the north, the other side. the south would be the most affected by the swimming pool, and then across the street as well, all in support of the project. So no concerns have been received from adjoining property owners regarding either the pool or the pool location within the front setback. Again, there is a mature hedge along the front property line, and there would be a 5-foot redwood solid fence on the just off of the pool deck, but a little bit off of the property line, replacing that wire fence currently south of the pool. And in this diagram, the wire fence is the sort of red line, and the blue would be the solid fence. The applicant is here and his architect is here tonight with some additional information regarding the pool location and the need for it to be in the particular location that it is. Staff has provided findings, including the fact that, although it's a little unusual to have a swimming pool within the side yard instead of a rear yard, the rear yard has much more topography. This area has already been graded to be level because of the existing bocce court. And as the owner said last time, they don't play bocce, but they do swim. And so that is the reason for this request. Again, the existing bocce court outline, the pool is smaller than the bocce court area, but would be, again, still within the front setback. The other landscape changes are minor. The existing trellis patio to the north would remain, and there would be a little bit of modification to meet up with the existing pathway to the south. And for those who might be new to this meeting, the pool equipment is located adjacent to the home in the existing utility space near the other, electrical and mechanical equipments. Regarding the fence, for the front yard gate, the original proposal was for a solid, and that's on the left, the solid gate and a kind of side wings that would range from 5.5 feet at the north property line to 6.5 feet due to the slope of the driveway, where it meets that wire fence, hog wire fence that continues along the front. After discussions by the Planning Commission at the last meeting, the applicant has modified the design to limit the solid portion to 42 inches and to be at least 50% transparent above that. The proposed materials would still be the steel frame and wood boards, and they have provided kind of an example of the front yard fence and what those materials would look like in terms of the wood. Given the modifications, again, last time the solid fence up to the taller height was a concern for the commission, so they have revised that as well as the presentation that they'll give as well on the need for the variance. Having no objections from neighbors, staff is recommending the commission to hold a public hearing, take any public comment tonight, discuss and approve the project as submitted with the modified condition, with the modifications to the project that would modify the front gate. Other options include approving the project with modified conditions, discussing and if there are further modifications required, continuing the project or denying the application. If the commission wishes to do the last option, we would request that you continue it to the next meeting so that we could make findings based on your input. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
Applicant are here. There you go. Do you have any input or anything to say? Yeah, please come up to the mic, and also it's a really busy agenda tonight, obviously, if you looked at it. So try to,
No, I'm going to keep it quick.
Awesome.
I planned a presentation. I'm just going to make a few points.
the mic, yeah.
I was going to make a few points.
And introduce yourself too.
Jeff Gustafson.
Thank you.
And I wrote the points down and you each have those.
Mhm.
So I just wrote 5 points down. Do you want me to read those or have you all read those?
I've read them. So
Okay.
that's good. You don't have
Those
to,
are my points. I just thought it's a really low impact change by bringing it forward. And we're still 30, I think still 31 feet from the street. Nobody will ever see this pool. Anyways, I didn't have any more than those points tonight.
great. All right. Very good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any questions for me regarding that?
No, fence modification. So you worked with the architect because that was I think one of the main sticking points last time was that a solid fence in
Yeah,
that
I have an
location.
architect and
Yeah.
the plans you have there show
Yeah,
what I intend to do.
right.
And it would be 50% plus open above the 42 inches. It's actually 42 inches on the right and it gets lower as you go to the left. So.
Yep. I see that. Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank
All
you.
right, thanks.
Any members of the public want to comment on this? All right, seeing none, let's go back to the commission and what's that? Oh, on Zoom, yeah. Is there anything on Zoom? They're part of the public. Zoom's part of the public, right? Nope. All right, excellent. Let's bring it to Brock.
From what I could see from the street, which wasn't a whole lot, I think it's fine. Probably less noisy than bocce ball, but
Yeah. Do you, any issues with the variance? I mean, you might want to
No.
comment. Okay. Liam?
I wasn't here, so just as a disclaimer, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I didn't hear any of the previous discussion that went on. But looking at the project and the site visit and the plans, I don't have a problem with the slope use permit, the setback variance for the pool. It's my opinion that like I don't particularly like the trend of like the front gate and the high front fence, even if it is transparent. I think it sort of walls off homes from the community. So that would be my sort of hang up on it. But again, I wasn't here last week and it sounds like that was previously discussed and that the applicant met the folks that were here's comments. So I guess from, using that, it's not my preference, but
Okay.
yeah.
Tasha?
Yeah, I was here at the last meeting and I gave my comments on the design review slope use permit and the variance, which I was able to make the findings for. I didn't like the solid fence, and to be honest, I actually agree with you, Commissioner Campbell, that I still think this new design is still quite closed off. And it would be I think it would be preferable to us if at least we can be consistent on what we're approving on front fences along the front. So I don't want to necessarily have them come back again for another meeting. If there's something they can do to work with staff, that would be my preference. But I also think this existing design, it's much better than what they had before, but the slats are so close together, it's still very, very closed off.
Tamara?
I think I'm on record as saying that I like fences. So from some of the recent ones. And so I thought the changes to the design to the front gate were lovely. I like them. And I would make the findings for the gate and I wouldn't make any changes to it. I also would make the findings for the slope use permit and the front yard setback variance.
So for me, I'm a fan of Robert Frost. Good fences make good neighbors. I do like the fence as it is. I mean, you could make the whole thing transparent. I mean, I think there's also an issue with pools that you have to have a non-climbable fence around a pool that's at least a certain feet high. Now you could make that interior, but I think as long as you have the 42, I have no problem with the design as it is. I actually kind of like it personally. So I'd make the findings for the application. All right.
So we just go ahead and make a motion then?
Yep.
Okay.
you want to do it?
Yeah, I mean, 4 out of 1. So I mean, I'm not going to dispute the fence then if you
Okay.
guys are all in agreement with the fence. So we can make a motion. So I'll make a motion to approve project number 25014, the design review variant slope use permit fence height exception for 210 Hawthorne Avenue.
I'll second.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
I think I'm going to abstain since I wasn't here last week.
Commissioner Swisher,
Either actually, but I'm gonna vote yes.
Commissioner Swisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes.
and Commissioner Hull.
Yes.
The motion passes. And there's a 10-day appeal period. If someone would like to appeal the decision, they need to file an appeal with the appeal fee with the city clerk within 10 calendar days.
Excellent. Very good. And just a little side note, Robert Frost was being ironic in that poem, but I still think good fences make good neighbors. All right, next. So let's see, we have 30 Loma Vista Avenue, APN 021-231-15, application PLN 24-058. Polsky Architects for Andrew and Julia Tobin owners, R1 First Residential Zoning, low density general plan designation. So this is a request for a 793 square foot addition to an existing 3,451 square foot residence with attached garage and carport, including conversion of the garage to a 440 square foot junior ADU and construction of a new 586 accessory dwelling unit. So it calls for design review for additions to the residence and demolition for the existing 726 foot tandem carport and construction of the new 314 square foot single car garage. The site improvements will include an expanded driveway, a 450 square foot pool, new site retaining walls, and other hardscape and landscaping. Also asking for a FAR, floor area ratio exception for 0.55, 4,205 square feet, where 0.41, 3,106 square feet is the maximum allowable floor area. As basement area is not included, that's 38 square feet is not included in the floor area, and the ADU and JADU are included in the floor area. Exception permit for modifications to a non-conforming structure, and also finally a heritage tree removal for 2 heritage-sized sycamore trees in the front yard to widen the driveway as required for fire safety. All right, can we have the staff report?
Thank you. This is also a project of mine. Thank you for that introduction. I've got a couple of pictures showing the location with the surrounding context. The front of the home currently has a large terrace on the main level, which is the upper level in the definition of the staff report. A mansard roof on the front and a gable roof on the rear of the property, as you can see on the lower slide. The project does seek to remodel the existing residence. The existing residence is already over the floor area ratio. What they are proposing is to add 175 square feet to the main residence, add a 586 square foot ADU, convert the garage, the current garage and the 38 square feet of the basement space to a junior accessory dwelling unit. That would be 434 square feet. And then to convert the existing carport, which is in front of the garage, so that would now be in front of the ADU or the JADU, to a garage.
Sorry, Kerry, can I interrupt?
Sure.
The slides are really tiny. Is there any way you can expand them to fit the screen?
Is that better?
Maybe have Alex share his screen.
Yeah, it's just cut off.
I think it did last time where it was cutting it
That
off.
is weird. Yeah. Okay. Let me try that again just to see. weird. I apologize for that. I'm not exactly sure why it is cutting them off. Uh,
Can't remember what we did last time.
Is that a little bit better?
Oh, try that. Yeah, maybe that's getting better. Now that's better.
Okay, great. The one thing I did want to note regarding the ADU, so the 586 square foot ADU is eligible for the city offers up to 800 square feet for either an ADU or a JADU. So the ADU is taking advantage of that, and that is added to the allowed FAR as well as the calculated FAR. The junior accessory dwelling unit is part of the existing kind of primary residence FAR. That does not get an exemption or a bonus square footage related to that. And so that is, I did want to call that out. Under state law, however, the approval of a JADU, if it's through the conversion of an existing space that's part of the home, which this is, must be approved ministerially. And so in some ways, when we get to the FAR discussion, that 434 square feet is something that is not in the discretion of the Planning Commission to approve. Additions for the main residence certainly is, and we can discuss that a little bit later. But I did want to call that out, that the ADU and JADU are required to be approved under state law, and they do meet the requirements of the city's municipal code for approval as well. So the additions to the home kind of show up in this. This is the site plan and some of the additional improvements they are proposing. They are proposing to modify and replace the site retaining walls leading up to the house. And then the additions themselves occur kind of on all sides. There's the carport becoming the garage on the northwest, which is the upper left. The addition, there's a small addition to the corner on the southwest. In the rear on the north, the gable roof you can see would be extended towards the rear yard to expand the kitchen area. And then in the middle of the south side, there is an addition that would fill in where currently there's a deck and some exterior stairs leading up to that. And that would be filled in on both levels, as would the ADU and the main floor on the southwest corner. Additional improvements include the request for approximately 450 square foot pool. And then they would have a new decking going out to that. They're also proposing to replace the existing steps on both the north side, which is the upper part of the slide, as well as the south. The north side would lead to the entry to the JADU, which you can see a small rectangular pink, which would be the box that juts out. That would be approximately where the entry to the ADU is. And then on the south side, the entrance to the ADU would occur approximately where there's a little bit of a pink square that goes out as well. This is a detail of the garage and lower floor plan. Again, the JADU, and you can see the entry to the side of the fireplace box that would be maintained as part of the project. Is currently the garage, and then the ADU with the infill in the central part of it, as well as the lower southwest corner, both on the lower level, and you can see as well on the upper level. for about, I believe it's about 65 square feet or so. The additions to the main home would actually reduce the size of the front terrace that's on that upper level by expanding the living room out that way. And I did forget to mention, there is currently a roof deck on top of what is shown as the primary bedroom here that would be eliminated with this proposal. And so that was one of the concerns if staff had, that if that was maintained, because that is so high up, but they have chosen to eliminate that on staff's request. The non-conforming wall you can see is in the middle, the middle south area, bedroom 2 and 3. That wall is being maintained, and I do have a diagram showing the windows being moved, but otherwise that portion of the home is remaining the same. Some of the major changes are to the elevations. The mansard roof would be removed and replaced with part of a flat roof with a central entry and a gable roof to the south. And then the gable roof that's behind the current front terrace would have that ridge profile of the roof would be increased slightly and move slightly to the north as it's increased. They are proposing stucco to replace the vertical wood siding and a wood door for the main entry, as well as a wood look door for the garage and around the side on the way to the entry of the JADU, and panelized wood for the darker gray, which is kind of details for the window wall within that gable roof. That also appears on the side of the home, the north side of the home, where they have some additional glazing. The glazing does include the larger kind of doors for the primary bedroom, as well as the living room, and an upper transom window, which is that triangular component. They do have some wonderful views of Mount Tam, and they're trying to take advantage of those. On the rear elevation, again, the peak of that roof on the north side is proposed to be increased, and that is a 2-foot increase that is proposed. And again, they are proposing the same glazing on the rear side. We have received a comment of concern regarding both the FAR as well as potential light issues. And so that is one area where there is a potential to discuss reducing the at least the upper glazing part of that wall at the kitchen, if that's a concern. The south elevation, I have a big red square around that non-conforming wall section. It sticks out, I believe, about 2 feet into the setback, the required setback, and they are maintaining the approximate same size of windows and simply relocating so that they can reconfigure into 2 bedrooms for that space. There are some additional red dashed lines. Those are actually this is a resubmittal from staff's first review, which was a bit concerned about the height of the roof as well as the amount of glazing. And so they have reduced the glazing on this side, and you'll see on the north side as well. This is the north elevation, and they have diagrammed out the existing hedge and the screening that provides to the elevation. And on this one, you can see the wood at the utility area where they have their gas panels and proposed battery storage for solar on the way to the entry to the JADU. And then to provide some additional detail, they are proposing a couple of bay windows, which are actually box window formats, with that panelized wood in the central part of the living room, and then another box window at the kitchen. In terms of the square footage, we have done a floor area ratio study, and the existing Loma Vista, as noted, 30 Loma Vista does have an existing FAR of 0.45. They are requesting a FAR of 0.56. Which includes the additions I talked about earlier for the ADU, JADU, and the 175 square feet to the house, primary residence. With that, it would be the second largest FAR in the vicinity. And I apologize, it's not the 16th largest overall in terms of square footage, but it would be the second largest FAR in the vicinity. This is a 300-foot range. And one thing that we do note, though, is that this would actually be 3 dwelling units on the site, not 1, as most of the others are. Again, there are limits to the amount that you can modify a non-conforming structure. The request for the non-conforming structure is twofold. One is to maintain and add on within the bounds to a non-conforming structure, and then the other is to actually modify the non-conforming portion of the structure. And so again, the non-conforming structure, about 80% of it would remain the same, but they are proposing to relocate a couple of windows and also modify those windows, the type of windows, so that those would be casement along with the other windows on that elevation. The proposal does trigger the requirement by the fire department to widen the driveway to meet fire safety and emergency access requirements. The widening of that, unfortunately, would require the removal of the 2 sycamore trees, one to the north of the driveway, very close, and the other to the south of the driveway. They are gorgeous trees right now. The one to the south is a little less healthy, according to the arborist report. But both of them would be severely impacted by the driveway widening. Staff has worked with the applicant to ensure that there is replacement landscaping, particularly to the south, to make sure that there is, the sycamore trees are a significant screening to the home, which is set quite a bit far up the hillside. And it would be nice if that was replaced, and the tradition that the city has of having that nicely landscaped close to the street is maintained. So they are interested in replacing the tree to the south, the jacaranda trees. That would be approximately the same height as the sycamore. I believe the placement's a little further back so that it doesn't interfere so much with the utility lines or the stumps of the sycamore trees to be removed. To the north, since they do have less space, they are widening the driveway to accommodate the parking space for the ADU, and widening the driveway itself in that direction. They are proposing to replace that sycamore tree with ornamental trees. We have received a number of public comments for this project. A number of those are letters of support that are submitted by the applicant, who has reviewed the plans with the adjoining neighbors. And we've also gotten some letters of concern with the project. Most of those are focused on the FAR exception and the size and scale of the house, with some of the roofline modifications and the potential light bleed from the home. And so that is actually where the view of the rear pool and patio was also a concern from the adjoining neighbor to the rear yard. They do have a pool in their yard and vegetation adjacent to that, which is detailed and diagrammed in the staff report as well. So with that, we do recommend you do hold a public hearing, take public comment, and discuss the project. and approve the project subject to findings and conditions of approval that we have provided. We also do have potential conditions related to reducing the glazing at the rear yard by eliminating that top triangular pane based on any direction from the Planning Commission. And additionally, if the FAR is of concern to the Planning Commission, we have included in the report, and I'll reiterate here, one of the conditions could be to reduce the FAR so that the primary residence is not expanded beyond its existing square footage. That is an addition of 175 square feet. We did not include the car and garage in that because it is the existing carport and garage is quite a large size. And so we were just looking at the size of the main home currently and what they're proposing to add to that. And so we are recommending that as a condition of approval to be added to the project. Other options include obviously additional conditions of approval, or discussing the project, providing direction to staff and the applicant, and continuing the project for modifications, or denying the full application. Again, if you do chose the latter, we do request you continue the item so that we can draft findings for denial based on your input. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Hi, thank you very much, Kerry. I have a question. So you had recommended reducing the FAR or reducing the square footage by 175 square feet. How does that bring down the FAR then? If they're asking for, it was like 0.56, right?
So they're asking for
0.55.
0.56, and that would bring the FAR to 0.53.
0.53. Okay.
I've got kind of a related question. I just want to be clear on what that, so we have 0.55 is what they're requesting, right? 4,205 square feet. But I just want to be clear, that does not include the 38 square feet of basement because it's below, more than half below grade, right? And it does not include the ADU, which is 586 square feet. And it does not include the JADU, which is 444 square feet.
Oh, no, it does.
That actually,
It does.
It does, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, ADU and J. Oh, okay.
Oh,
I see.
included.
I misread it.
But what you're saying to us, just so I understand this correctly, is that as the commission, we are not permitted to make any changes to the requested ADU and JADU. Am I understanding that correctly? In terms of square footage, I guess. We can make design changes, but we can't make square footage
Correct. It does.
changes.
Both the ADU and the JADU fall within the allowed square footage under the city's code.
Okay.
But just to be more clear, only one of them doesn't count, right?
They both count.
Not both of them.
Right. So the ADU, which is 586 square feet, is, I guess it's actually added to the square footage allowed. So the base square footage that would be allowed is let me put this way, it's 0.40, but the site does have slope that brings it down to 0.33. When you add in the square footage that's allowed, the bonus square footage for the ADU, the allowable square footage is 0.41. That does not, however, include the 434 square feet of the JADU.
Any other comments, questions?
So how does a 175-foot reduction get you back down to what?
So thank you. So 175 square feet would reduce the FAR from 0.56 to 0.53.
Which would be equal to the existing residence plus the ADU, which is out of our scope, and plus the JADU, which is out of our scope because they're regulated by state law.
Correct.
Well, what about the garage? Doesn't that also increase the square footage, or is that included already in the number you've given us?
So that is included in the 0.56.
No, I meant if we take out the so if you take out the 175,
Mm-hmm.
you get
0.53.
0.53 plus the JADU plus the ADU. Do you have to also plus the garage? You do. Okay, so it's 3 additional things you have to add. Is that correct?
I mean, the only,
In the,
so
then,
you have to allow conversion of existing space to a JADU up to
yes,
500 square feet. You have to allow an ADU up to 800 square feet.
yes,
The rest of the house can be reduced in size to the maximum.
okay. Okay, and that's the bit I was just trying to understand. So that garage is included? Yes, great.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
So, any other questions for the staff?
I had one other question, which was, I have never seen the fire department require somebody to widen their driveway. I mean, all the driveways in the area are 12 feet wide. So why is this particular one having to wipe out the trees to make it wider?
I don't know if, Alex, if you recall, because he was first processing the application, but I believe it's just because the house is a greater distance from the street than most homes. So they're planning to drive an emergency vehicle up the driveway.
This is the first time. Okay. It's the first time. Okay. All right.
Hang on.
So given that, could we have the applicant and Mr. Polsky, if you want, are you speaking for the applicant or the applicant speaking? Hi, how are you?
I'll speak for just a few minutes.
Sure.
It was fun to look at that. Thank you. Good evening, commissioners. I'm Andy Tobin, and this is my wife, Julia. We also have 2 sons, aged 9 and 7. We want to first start by thanking the planning staff for their thorough and thoughtful report. We're especially grateful for the time they took to visit our home and collaborate with our architects at Pearlstein to shape a respectful and well-integrated plan. We bought our home at 30 Loma Vista after previously renting in the same neighborhood. We did so because we love this community. And with the remodel, we've done our best to reflect the values that make this community special. Our home was built in 1924. It celebrated its 101st birthday this year. It's terrific and we dig it. But the seller disclosures were upon purchase daunting enough that we were the only house hunter that made a bid. Now, over 2 years in, and knowing exactly where the water flows through the garage, we're super excited to be in front of you today. From the start, we've worked hard to be both neighborly and mindful with our renovation plans. In November of last year, before submitting anything to the city, we visited our neighbors, including those directly behind us at 123 Pepper, to share our plans and invite input. Together, we walked the proposed drawings, and 123 Pepper even invited us upstairs to confirm our single-story plans, and that our single-story plans wouldn't impede their second-story view. At that time, they told us their only concern about raising the roof line was building up. We'd already decided on not building a second level on the advice of Polsky Pearlstein, so we felt good. At the city's suggestion, we removed our existing rooftop and deck in order to address any potential privacy concerns. We've kept our additions modest and thoughtfully distributed across the current footprint. When we learned we'd be on the docket for tonight's planning commission, we again reached out to all of our neighbors. 7 households, including our adjacent neighbors on Loma Vista to the north and the south, signed letters of support. Unfortunately, one neighbor declined to meet, despite multiple invitations and despite our efforts to connect them directly with our architect. Instead, Shortly after the storage poles went up, they cut back a 15-foot hedge that stood untouched for years, just days before filing the complaint that I think you've seen. By mere luck, city planning was on site to confirm the hedge hacking. By mere luck, one of the cut branches fell into our property, and it's nearly 6 feet tall, almost as tall as me. These same neighbors spent the last few days reaching out to others in an attempt to build opposition to our project. I'll let Jessica Smith, our architect, Polsky, talk through the specifics of the plan, the code regulation, and the FAR exception. But we want to be clear. Julia and I have made every effort to preserve harmony throughout this process. This includes staying significantly below the height limit and regulated setbacks, preserving and enhancing privacy as confirmed in the staff's report, more generally, staying within our existing footprint. It's a beautiful remodel, but it's basically the same footprint that it's always been, while improving our house immensely. Finally, we want to thank you for recognizing the staff report that reads, "Scenic views are limited and will not be impacted by the project. The proposed structure avoids significant and unreasonable interference with privacy, light, solar access, or prominent scenic views." This process has not been easy for us, but we've learned a lot. We care deeply about being good stewards of this property and respectful neighbors. We hope you'll support this thoughtful remodel, designed not to impose, but to quietly improve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Architect.
Good evening. I'm architect Jessica Smith with Polsky Pearlstein Architects, here to speak about the proposal for Loma Vista. First, thank you, planning staff and commissioners, for your time reviewing this project. The project brief was to update and reorganize the existing residence comprised of piecemeal additions into a cohesive design, focus on the Mount Tam view to the west, connect to the east rear yard, and add 2 additional dwelling units while remediating lots of deficiencies. The proposed scheme achieves these goals by gathering family sleeping and living spaces on the main level, focuses major rooms on the view of Mount Tam, and has an ADU and JDU on the lower level. The presented design is a result of adjacent neighbor feedback and working with planning staff to revise the design per their concerns leading up to the hearing, as Carrie mentioned. With these revisions, the proposal has gained the support of planning staff. Responding to a couple of the concerns, the proposed 27'6" maximum height occurs at the new ridge on the west front facade. The proposed gable appears less massive than the existing mansard and is in keeping with the 2-story facade of the neighbors to the north. The rear east facade receives a new single-story gable with a 15-foot ridge, which is well below the allowable 30-foot maximum height, and is set back an additional 16 feet from the 12-foot rear setback, making it 28 feet back from the property line. These design decisions were made in consideration of the rear neighbors to make sure that we weren't encroaching on the backyard. As the staff report notes, the views will not be impacted by the project. Mount Tam rises considerably higher than the 30 Loma Vista roofline. The proposed overall FAR sounds really scary, and it seems the letters of complaint are looking purely at the numbers rather than the design as a whole. These numbers don't necessarily reflect what is actually experienced on site. The design intention was to maintain a main residence floor area comparable to that of the existing residence, with the addition of an ADU and JDU as allowed by the state's ADU laws. Remove that 1,030 square feet for the 2 additional units, and this is achieved. The proposed new main residence, including garage, is at 3,213 square feet. The existing main residence plus carport and garage is 3,451 square feet, making the proposed area 238 square feet smaller than the existing. The owner is foregoing space in order to add additional units. The staff report looks at these areas without the covered parking. Comparing only the living space, the new residence is 170 square feet larger, which historically would be considered a minor FAR exception. The shift of main residence floor areas from the lower level to make way for the ADU and JDU is achieved with minor changes in the massing. For instance, the front of the house is set way back from the street, and its west addition adds articulation, yet discrete in mass. Similarly, part of the existing northwest roof deck is infilled. To the south, there's infill between walls. Finally, there's an east rear addition, 7.5 feet in length, well back from the property line. These only subtly affect the overall existing massing while expanding the floor area. Therefore, this 175 square foot addition is not as big as it sounds, and findings can be made for the current proposal. Thank you for your time.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, I have some questions. So in your, I guess in the staff report, and this is actually a question for you, you're going, so the way I understand it is the fire department is requiring the widening of the road. And because of that, that's what's impacting the 2 sycamore trees.
Correct.
And what I read was that you are going to try and save them, but if you can't, you're going to replace them with new trees.
Correct.
So there were 2 questions around that. One is I saw there was a jacaranda tree that you were going to put in. Can you just address like how that works with fire resistance? And then what is the other tree you're planning to put in? You said ornamental, but I wasn't sure what that meant.
It's supposed to be a second jacaranda, but I think our plans were unclear and said ornamental, so it would be probably another flowering tree, as could be, I guess, interpreted. So hopefully 2 matching jacarandas.
Okay. And has there been any feedback from the fire department on whether that's an acceptable tree or not? I mean, they're beautiful trees.
So these trees aren't considered pyrophytic, so like flame producing. And because they're set back considerably from the existing houses, they aren't considered to be a danger of the house. Kind of the new WUI standards are going to require all vegetation to be at least 5 feet away from the house. And that's why there's considerably more hardscape around the house as well. And so these trees, because I think they're at least 15, if not more, won't be a problem for fire.
Okay. And then I saw that one of the sycamore trees was in the overhead wires. So how are you going to resolve that with the new construction and new trees or whatever happens? I mean, it's right in there.
So one of the trees is moving, kind of is shifting away from the driveway, and then is also shifting away from those overhead wires.
Okay, so it won't be tangled with that anymore.
No.
Okay.
We'll take care of it.
Thank you. And then can you address, there was a comment in one of the neighbors from 123 Pepper about drainage and runoff into their property. Can you address that?
So California code, the drainage code, actually requires all stormwater and in this case pool water to be drained within the property and eventually making its way to the street. There's a bunch of strategies to slow that down. And so with the pool permit, there's absolutely going to be a comprehensive drainage plan, making sure any overflow or other types of water, even groundwater, which is less likely because they're kind of at the top of the hill, will be directed away from all other property lines, and specifically the 123 Pepper.
Okay, thank you.
And then you have this, actually, I think this is the first time I've seen a JADU and an ADU.
Mhm.
So can you talk to why you're asking for both of these?
So the
Like,
state
what are
of-
they going to use it for? I know why, like, you can get it for basically there's an additional like free square footage, but
Mhm.
what are they planning to do with this? Like, do they really need an ADU and a JADU?
I think that's up to the owners.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, California allows up to 3 units
Mm-hmm.
to be built on all properties. And so in this case, because of the complete overhaul of the existing foundation, they have the ability to include this space, both of these spaces within the existing design. So it's like very cohesive. My understanding, they're under kind of talking with one of their elementary school teachers about moving into one of them in the future. And maybe the other one will be available as well for
Okay.
another teacher.
Is the access of the JADU to the house to use services in the house, or?
It's
mean-
to use the existing, what will be the laundry in the
Yeah.
house.
Okay.
Wait, what? One's a laundry room? Is that what? Is that?
No, the JDU includes a door to the main house,
Mm-hmm.
and the JDU doesn't have its own laundry facilities. So the idea is that they could use the laundry in the main house on that same level.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, those are my questions.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you very much.
And
So
Really quickly, I'm sorry to
yep.
interrupt. I just wanted to circle back to Commissioner Wagstaff's question about the driveway. So it's because it's in the wildland urban interface and they're adding a unit. So that's why they have to widen the driveway.
that would make sense. All right. So now it is time for members of the public to comment. So anybody who would like to comment, please come on up, and keep in mind that we'd like to keep it to 3 minutes because we've got a lot on the agenda.
The photograph loaded on the yes, on 1, 2, 3 Pepper. That we sent. Right?
No, just look at you.
Barry, you have the photograph loaded?
Yeah, it's under that song.
All right. So introduce yourself, please. There you go.
Hi, my name is Jason Copeland, and I own 1, 2, 3 Pepper with my wife, Jessica Copeland, and that's our son, Will Copeland. Thank you, Commission, for listening to our concerns, and I'm just going to get started. This is the hedge that is brought into question that was trimmed by both me and my son and our gardeners. We do trim it seasonally, and you're ready for summer. It's like we stake tables and we plant food. But this is 10 feet high right here. So we trimmed it down. The piece that fell on the other side, because we were trimming at lower levels to thin it out, and some branches we couldn't even reach because they were so far back. So we had to go down to a lower level and trim it. And that's why the branch is so high. Just to be clear, you don't go below that 10-foot level. This, by the way, is the subject property. This is the roof line up here. This is an idea when you walk into the master bedroom and turn towards the window. This is what you would see. So that's the foothills of Mount Tam. This is our hedge, and that's the property. That would be, I believe, that's the kitchen right there. Can we go to the next photo? Thank you. Here it is from view closer to the window, so you can see the property. Until this moment, we would have unobstructed views. We'd have one protruding. I don't know what this is. I don't think it's a smokestack, but some kind of exhaust, and then this would be the property. This actually just even follows the dip of the flags, so it actually would probably be more of a straight line, but I'm not positive about that, to give people perspective. Okay, can we see the next photo? Thank you. Okay. Our property and Loma Vista back up to each other. The two lots are similar in size, with both having the Mounttown view and its most remarkable feature, When the subject house is complete with a footprint that will extend closer to our house, the square footage by way of 3 connected units will be double the size of our house. Okay. It will follow a rash of new construction that are laying down a heavy footprint we may not fully realize for some time. Do I like the idea? I don't. Will I accept it as a neighbor? I may have to, because I live in a neighborhood. We wave to each other when we drive by, look out for each other's kids. We benefit from being a part of a loosely related pack of people who all saw the appeal of Palm Hill's beauty and lifestyle. I'm guessing the idyllic charm of Palm Hill is a big reason Andy and Julia chose this neighborhood to raise a family. It's born from neighbors who build within a framework of our village ethos, respecting each other's home ownership experience while working together to maintain balance between our shelters and the surrounding nature that defines our hood. I was sitting in my living room, Exhibit A, when I read the height of the kitchen ceiling. I looked up at my beam ceiling and measured its height, 10 feet. Our next door neighbor, who signed in support of the remodel, acknowledged she was unaware of the height of the ceiling and how it would partially obscure our view. I'm guessing others who signed were also not aware. No doubt the 13-foot 5-inch ceiling would be an architectural statement. But when you weigh the impact to surrounding views, I would hope there are many among us who could appreciate the reason we're asking for the talented Polsky and Pearlstein architectural firm to find a beautiful compromise. The reason these building proposals are presented to a planning panel is because numbers don't always tell the whole story. Only another human can recognize and appreciate something of beauty when they see it, like an unobstructed mountain view. It takes a human to understand the value, not just from a market perspective, but intrinsically. If this commission is willing to make a significant subjective exception to the FAR of the subject property, I'm asking them to also use their subjectivity in both directions by asking the homeowners to respectfully reconsider their kitchen ceiling height in order to avoid partially obstructing a neighbor's view, thereby protecting the homeownership experience of surrounding properties. Yes, we chose our house because of the remarkable view, but we chose this neighborhood because of the community and what it represents. I want to be an example to my kids of how to conduct ourselves in this community, even in conflict. I want to show them how our collective kindness and support is contagious, where I do my best to be a germ. So yes, I am moving toward conflict because I believe this is important enough to act on, but I will do my best to listen to the other side, be honest, accurate, and accountable for my part. Regardless of how this ends up, when we see your family in the neighborhood, we will say hello, we will throw the errant ball back over the hedge, and congratulate your kid when he has a good game. Best I can tell, the point of our time on earth is to make life worth living, refine it, safeguard it, and promote, or at least not detract from a similar opportunity to achieve happiness to those around us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Anybody else in the audience want to make comments? So.
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Jessica Copeland,
Hey.
Josh's wife, 123 Pepper. Thank you for taking the time to listen. My daughter is also not here. She's a 16-year-old who is studying for finals right now. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. Thank you, Planning Commission, for the opportunity to express our concerns regarding the emerging trend of exceptions linked to the state's new legislation aimed to incentivize homeowners to add accessory dwelling units to their properties. While we understand the intent to foster equitable housing solutions in Marin, we believe it's crucial to carefully evaluate the potential impacts and ensure that these changes genuinely serve the community's best interests. Your attention to this matter can help us create a more sustainable and inclusive future for all residents, as we are quickly seeing drastic changes to the character of our beloved city. Over the past week and a half, I've been trying to wrap my head around how to present and convey my concerns. We have submitted several detailed letters, but for the sake of my 3 minutes, I'll focus on the proposed renovation of 30 Loma Vista Avenue, as it directly impacts our property and family. Upon reviewing the Planning Commission staff notes, I was struck by how pro-development they are. My understanding of how this process works is that their contracted planner objectively takes all information from all parties involved and presents it to the Planning Commission for this hearing. The last week and a half have been a mental boot camp as I've tried to make a sense of the plans and how the ADU exceptions translate to exceptions to overall FAR ratios within our city. What concerned me the most reading the report wasn't the use of the minimizing language. It was a misrepresentation of the numbers and the scope of the project. I spent the last 2 days consulting with an architect to understand the statements in the report. The most pressing issue for us is the conflicting information on the drawing provided by the city, which, although it aligns with the story poles, does not align with what is described in the staff notes. If you look on page 5, item D, the overall design paragraph 3, they describe the architectural details of the front facade include increasing the low-pitched roof to a higher 4-2 pitch and replacing the mansard roof and with a new 4-2 gabled roof profile. On page 9, it states the proposed design modifies the roof line at the rear to increase the slope of the gable roof by 3 feet, and it maintains the same general height. On page 2, it goes on to talk about these heights. On page 12, sorry, it goes on to talk about these heights. It says the existing roof ridge is up to 113.5 elevation, and the proposed roof ridge is also up to 113.5 elevation. Therefore, staff would not recommend a reduction in the roof height. If this was the case, we'd have no issue with the height of the roof line. In drawing A2.1, the east elevation clearly shows the new roof line at an elevation of 115 feet, and it has a pitch of 712, not the pitch they had proposed, as specified on page 5, item D, paragraph 3. So as you can see, which I wasn't able to submit, in the drawing on A2.2, they had not made the new roof line clear. And so I've highlighted the roof line so that you can see the difference between the 113.5 and the 115 feet roof line. In the drawing, the pitch of both roofs on the front of the house is 712, while the back of the home has one roof line at 412 pitch and the other is a 712 pitch. If all the pitches match the 412 pitch and maintained the current highest point of the house of 113.5, they would no longer impede our sight line and infringe on our Mount Tam views from our master bedroom. Please refer to the diagram and accompanying pictures, which we have provided. As demonstrated by the picture from the master bedroom, the current roof line of 113 feet meets the criteria stated in section B with compatibility with neighbors on page 3 of the Larkspur Planning Commission staff report, as referenced by the Larkspur Municipal Code section 1864050. The proposed new roof line of 115 feet with 13.5-foot ceilings does not meet the criteria. Using the data from the drawing, this new roof line brings bulk criterion, section C, page 4, into question. Seeing that the existing FAR is already non-conforming, it is 0.45 instead of 0.33, and the proposed FAR is 0.55, is actually out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. The existing house already towers over the street, as you can see in drawing 1A2.1. The increase of this size and height will not only compound the issue, it will have a severe impact on the whole neighborhood. I please ask you to review these plans to make sure that the numbers are correctly represented.
Thank you very much.
Can we have someone clarify the
Yeah.
113 versus 115 and what's in fact correct and what's, because I do see 115 here on one on one plan and 113 on a different diagram.
I think the best place to see it is probably on the section on page It's going over quick, A 3.2, I believe. And then on the top section, it does show,
You mean 2.2?
You mean 2.A2?
sorry, mine's so small.
It's here. Look, it says 113 here,
Yeah.
and then it says one.
There is a difference because there's a roof,
115.
the roof ridge is different. So the A 3.1, sorry, mine's so
It's
tiny.
150.
I think A 3.1 shows the existing roof ridge lower than the proposed roof ridge. So A 3.1,
So is it so is the actual
It
plan
is
113 or 150
115 is the actual roof
plan
plan.
with the pitch, as Ms. Copeland says?
With the steeper roof pitch.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other comments? Oh. All right. Is this,
My name is Will Copeland. I'm
Will, yeah.
son of Jessica and Josh. And I'm reading a letter on behalf of Courtney, who's with her mom in the hospital right now. So she's on Zoom, but hope everything's going okay. So I'm just reading her letter. Dear Planning Commissioners, I'm writing on behalf of my clients, Jessica and Josh Copeland, who own the property at 123 Pepper Avenue in Larkspur. They're concerned about the proposed renovation/remodel on the adjacent lot to the west at 30 Loma Vista Avenue. As a real estate agent, I helped the Copelands acquire their lovely Palm Hill home in February of 2014. After reviewing the proposed plans, I too am very concerned about the negative impact this project, as currently drawn, will have on Jessica and Josh's reasonable enjoyment of their property and on its market value, which is linked to their west-facing views. I have a great deal of respect for architects Polsky and Perlstein, who have helped many of my clients expand and remodel their Larkspur homes. I'm certain they can find a way to create an elegant environment for the owners of 30 Loma Vista Avenue without negatively impacting irreplaceable views at immediately adjacent properties. The remarkable views towards Mount Tamalpais from 123 Pepper Avenue are intrinsic to its value and desirability. Indeed, the views in the back of the property are the single most significant value add factor to what is a charming and modest 1936 English Tudor home. Those views have allowed the property to increase its value over almost 9 decades. My clients bought their property because of the view to the west over 11 years ago. No one could have imagined at the time that future owners at 30 Loma Vista, a property that was already way above FAR for its lot size and uphill slope, would be allowed a variance to impact irreplaceable neighboring views in exchange for 13.5-foot ceilings. Surely this aspect of the project can be scaled down to a reasonable 9.5-foot or 10-foot ceilings, which would be quite spacious and generous in feel, while allowing neighboring homes to continue enjoying their bucolic views of nature in Mount Tamalpais. The new proposed roof line at 30 Loma Vista Avenue will significantly alter the Copeland sightline and infringe on the natural view of Mount Tamalpais from their master bedroom, which would not be in keeping with Section B, compatibility with neighbors, on page 3 of the Larkspur Planning Commission staff report, a criterion meant to ensure compliance with Larkspur Municipal Code, Section 1864-050. As you know, Palm Hill is a highly sought-after neighborhood for its tree-lined streets and natural beauty. Granting variances to overbuild on a lot the size of 30 Loma Vista Avenue will, in my opinion, negatively impact the unique charm, character, and market value of adjacent lower Palm Hill homes, especially if homes are uniquely outstanding views, such as 123 Pepper Avenue, are negatively affected. I respectfully urge the Planning Department to consider this matter carefully. I'll be attending the Planning Commission's upcoming 7 p.m. June Zoom and look forward to hearing what various parties have to share. Thank you for your time and careful consideration. Courtney.
all right, thank you. All right.
Good evening. My name is David Berkovich. I live at 21 La Rosa in Larkspur on the other side of the bike path. We recently completed our own remodel, and my only comment is, as having someone who's recently been through this process, is how hard it is to balance all the competing demands. And I hear a lot here about how this project seems to have worked tirelessly with the city and with staff to get to a reasonable compromise. And so it seems to me like the commission should do everything possible to approve it. Thank you.
My name is Matt Roble. I live in Larkspur. I'm new to this planning thing, so thanks for the time. I only looked into this project at the behest of my friends that I met in the community and neighbors whose homes and lives would be affected by the proposed changes at 30 Loma Vista. Their concern is specific and personal. The project would impede their sightlines to Mount Tam, a view that's not just beautiful, but as it's been repeated over and over tonight, central to the character of the neighborhood. But I dug into the details and my concerns broadened, and I see a pattern that raises a larger question to me about how planning is evolving here. And Commissioner Campbell said something about it earlier. This proposal adds, I don't know, 800 square feet to a house that's already over the zoning limit. The total exceeds 4,200 square feet on a lot that's zoned for 2,500. But these numbers like center less on the scale and impact and more on whether or not they can technically fit within the increasingly flexible interpretation of the code. The ADU, it's the catch-all justification. It was something Commissioner Campbell said, we just have no control over it. Like ADUs were intended as modest and thoughtful responses to housing needs, multi-generational flexibility, rental options, gentle infill. But lately we've seen them be used for greenlighting full-scale second homes. And that comes at a cost to views, privacy, open space, and the trust of neighbors, citizens, what they have in the planning process. I'm not opposed to housing or thoughtful change, but the trend is troubling. These FAR waivers that are meant to be exceptions seem to be routine. Thanks to the beauty of AI and ChatGPT, I loaded the minutes for the last 18 months from this commission. 16 of 16 FAR approvals granted. Your record's a little better on heritage trees, but what's happening? Like the process is designed to ensure balance. It's starting to look and feel like a formality. Now, I'm not blaming the applicants for asking, but it's your job to balance personal ambition with public good. And when the rules become guidelines and exceptions become precedent, we begin to erode the framework that was created to keep this community balanced. So I urge you, look closely at the project, not just through the lens of what's permitted, but what's sustainable. And all the projects that come across your desk. It's for scale, for livability, and for citizens for trust in this process. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anybody else?
Hi, my name's Susan Harris, and I grew up in Mill Valley, graduated from TAM, moved away, and like many, came back to raise my family. But when I looked at Mill Valley, especially Sycamore Park, I hardly recognized it. Big houses packed tightly together with little room to breathe. Something intangible was lost, the character and the sense of place. That's why I chose Larkspur. It felt like Marin. As a designer, I think about beauty and balance every day. Design isn't just about what you add, it's about what you leave alone. One of the most important principles is white space, the room to breathe around things that give them meaning. In towns, that shows up as space between homes, the pattern and feeling of light and shade, the sound of wind moving through the branches of old trees. Once a heritage tree is cut down or a structure goes up that's too big for the lot, it's permanent. You can't unbuild it and you can't go back. And while this seems like an exception, it sets precedent. And over time, those exceptions add up until a town's identity quietly disappears. My neighbors reflect the spirit of this place. Next door is one of the scientists who taught Coco the gorilla sign language. Across the street, a filmmaker who produced an award-winning documentary on redwoods. 2 doors down, someone who spent their career developing cancer treatments. In the other direction, a former Olympian who now trains endurance athletes and Navy SEALs. They chose Larkspur for its character, its quiet beauty, not for square footage. When a place loses its room to breathe, It's not just the scale of homes that change, it's the people. And slowly the town becomes something else. Imagine our streets in 10 years. Will it feel like Larkspur? Or just another upscale suburb with oversized homes and loophole ADUs approved in the name of accessibility and affordability, but used as guest suites, pool houses, and teen lounges? Please don't allow exceptions that quietly chip away at what makes this place special.
Thank you. Sure.
I was not planning to talk, so I don't have papers, but I feel like they have been talking a lot about like the distribution of the square feet and whatever, and like the floor plan stays more or less the same. What we have done is like to redistribute things, and our livable house is a little bit smaller. But we are adding this JDU and ADU because we are hosting a Spanish-speaking teacher for our school, and we would like to increase with another if possible. We love like the exchange that it creates in our house, and that's why we are trying to bring these people here, right? And it's impossible to live in Marin. So that's one of the reasons that we have done this redistribution, that our house will be smaller so we can host people downstairs. As a lot of people have been mentioning, we have been working tirelessly with like all the neighbors around, like all the people from planning, our architects, trying to receive all the complaints, issues that they had, and we have been trying to work through. We reached to all the neighbors, and not everybody responded the same way. The people who closed the door to talk to us from the beginning, well, they received us in November. It seemed that everything was good, but now when we reach out again, they were like, we don't want to talk, and like we repeatedly say, like, please talk to us, talk to our architect, let's make this a solution before we get here, so we all save time and money. But we haven't been able to talk to them, so I don't know what else to do at this point, right? Like, I wish we would have sorted it out before here, and our willingness was to sort it out, and now we are here. But thank you for listening.
Yes. All right. Anybody else? And again, could you introduce yourself, please?
Mic goes down. I promise I'll be brief. I'm Lisa Landers. I live in Larkspur as well. You know, I am all for remodeling a house when it needs to be remodeled. The architecture in this town is lovely and diverse, but at what cost, right? Like, when we start to look at the totality of what's happening, I tend to look at things through the lens of ecology. I'm not a scientist. I'm actually a journalist, and I've been speaking with scientists for more than 25 years, helping them share stories with the public about the wonders of nature. And along the way, I've learned a few things about the essential services that natural landscapes provide. And in a suburb like Larkspur, where our natural landscapes are fragmented, these ecological services aren't just beneficial in a general way. They have direct impacts on our health and, of course, the fortitude of our property, as you all know. So things like, enhancing air quality and keeping us cool, controlling stormwater, protecting our property from increasingly extreme weather, these are all things that green spaces do for us, that trees, vegetation. So making sure that that balance stays as it should. I know this is part of what you look at. And I just can also see, though, that with these exceptions to the FARs and the ADUs, just feels like we're chipping away at that a little bit. And then the last thing I just wanted to say is I understand the reason why these two heritage trees need to come down. But every time you take out a tree, just because you're replacing it with another tree, doesn't mean it's always like for like, right? These big trees, they are the ones that hold so much biodiversity. They are these stepping stones in our fragmented landscapes for pollinators and insects and small mammals and sometimes large ones. All these older trees, they're holding the soil. They have their root systems that have been evolving over time. And when you pull them out, you disrupt a lot of other things. And not saying, if one tree goes or maybe a few trees go, but where does it stop and where do we draw the line? And I just, I just hope that this is something that is under consideration as you make your decisions about what makes the most sense in terms of preserving the reason why we are all here and preserving the ecological services that these green spaces offer. So,
Great.
thank
Thank
you.
you very much. All right. Anybody else? Yep. Is it, we have one more or from the audience?
I'll be brief because I think a couple of people said it all pretty well. My name is Ross Murray. I live at 25 Elm. We're the last driveway down on Loma Vista, so not directly impacted by this, but close enough. I would say just really quick to sum up the way I'm kind of feeling about these things. It's not specific to this house, but just what I'm seeing recently. I am a Larkspur native. My mother grew up here in the 40s and 50s. I grew up here in the 70s, 80s. Went to Redwood. My son's about to graduate Redwood as a third generation student there. And I don't say that to say that I'm opposed to change. Obviously, things have changed a ton. There were barely any trees on Palm Hill back in the 40s when my mom was growing up. I'm aware that things will change. I'm not anti that. It's the speed and of late. When we go out walking around the neighborhood, and I'm sure a lot of people would feel the same thing. It's three things come to mind every time. How did this house get approved for this lot? The second thing is, where did all the trees go? And you walk around the neighborhood and you're like, it's like a tooth is missing. I look out of the corner of my eye, like, I did not used to be able to see that. Where did that tree, how did they get approval to take that tree down? And then now the third thing is, why are we building compounds with all these ADUs? And I do understand that yours is within the envelopes. I apologize to some degree because I feel like I'm attacking applicant for something that's sort of a greater problem in the neighborhood of late. Is that every house that goes up has an accessory building attached to it, and that's not what this neighborhood used to look like. So again, I'm not anti-change, but I think it's getting exponential over the last couple of years, and I really notice it every time I walk around. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
Do have a couple hands on Zoom. So the first one is the number ending in 1402 that should be able to speak now.
So one comment though, before we have more comments, if something has been said, we don't need to repeat it. So if you have a new and interesting comment that adds to the discussion, that's great. But let's try to keep it efficient so we can move on. Thank you.
James Holmes Larkspur, with regard to the communicating doors between the accessory unit and the main unit, please check applicable current law, because my understanding is that there were changes in state law which may have been conformed into Larkspur ordinances that restrict and ban those communicating doors. I think this came up in an earlier presentation when there was going to be conformity with the state legislation. So please double check current law to make sure those communicating doors are still permissible. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Next.
Okay, and the next hand up is Garrett Awad, who should be able to speak now.
Hi there, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, I wanted to talk and actually support the project. I live 2 houses down from the applicant. I know there's been a lot of people talking who don't live in the immediate vicinity as well. And what I can say is there's probably 5 different neighbors on our street on Loma Vista that are in support of the project. When you look at the house itself, it sits back significantly from the road. And while the FAR may be high, it is within the footprint of the house. So when you look at the story poles from the street, it is incredibly underwhelming what it looks like is happening, which is positive from our perspective and a lot of the neighbors' perspectives. I was actually at the Winneries property on Sunday for a community meeting. There were many people within that party who actually expressed they were thought the project looked nice and didn't have any issues with it. So I know I can't speak to the person behind them at all in terms of the view, but what I can say in terms of the FAR at least is it feels like it is unobtrusive, given that it is within the footprint of the house, and the house itself sits probably, I don't know, it seems like 100 feet back from the road. So I don't think there is any significant increase in its impact on the neighborhood at all. If anything, I don't think most people even notice the change as it relates to the size of the house.
Thank you. Next.
Okay, and the next speaker is Diagnostics iPhone. Should be able to speak now.
This is Courtney Whitaker. Not sure if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I'm a real estate agent at Golden Gate Sotheby's and represented Jessica and Josh Copeland when they purchased their home at 123 Pepper. What I wanted to say is that I've listened carefully to all of the people that have spoken, and I think a lot of really great points have been made. And I have the utmost respect for Polsky and Pearlstein. They've done many projects for many of my clients, including an expansion and redo of the Dolliver Mansion in Madrone Canyon. I just really think that, from my perspective, having visited the property and seen the plans, that if something can be done to lower those 13.5-foot ceilings in the kitchen, it would go a long way toward alleviating the primary problem for my clients who are directly behind this property. And while I can appreciate that there are a number of people on Loma Vista that support this property expansion and remodel, they're not impacted the way my clients at 123 Pepper are, because they're located directly behind it. I have 10-foot ceilings in my house, and they are wonderful and very airy and wonderful. 13.5-foot ceilings in a kitchen seems to me like it would be fabulous, but it's just not necessary. Not when it's going to impede someone's view to such an extent. There has to be some balance in that. And I really, really hope that Polsky and Pearlstein can work with the owners of Loma Vista to reduce that by 3 or 3.5 feet. And I think a lot of what's very difficult for my clients will be alleviated by that effort. And I have a lot of respect for all of the people that have spoken tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Anything else? Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for everybody who has talked tonight. So now let's bring it back to the Planning Commission. So this time we'll start with Ms. Hull. Oh, sure. Oh, Liam,
Sorry.
sure.
Yeah, I just
Go ahead.
wanted to address a couple of the comments that are maybe not as related to this specific project, but were brought up in some of the public comments. So regarding the floor area ratio, in Larkspur, we have a floor area ratio that's dependent on the slope of the lot. And so a lot of times we get lots that are pretty large, but are up in the hills. And the maximum allowed floor area is, like 800 square feet, which is not something that is feasible, I guess, to build in Larkspur. And so this is sort of a longstanding issue that it comes up a lot, as you may have seen in your ChatGPT research. And it's something that we're taking steps to address as a commission. We've formed a subcommittee to look at the FAR again. So again, not related to this project specifically, but to that issue as a whole. And then another thing that was brought up was the issue of ADUs and ADUs being added to properties. So as the staff noted, it's a relatively recent state law that was passed that permits ADUs to be added to residences. And the point of this, as I think we can all appreciate, is to increase the availability of affordable housing. California, and Marin especially, has a problem with affordable housing. It's very expensive to live in California, and it's even more expensive to live in Marin. And so as a result of that, a lot of people that work here can't afford to live here. And so the point of I guess where I'm going with this is ADUs, it's a relatively recent state law that allows the addition of an ADU. And as a city, we decided when that law was passed, we discussed it as a commission and we decided that we would deduct up to, please correct me if I'm wrong, 800 square feet of ADU floor area from the floor area ratio. Is that correct?
Then we changed it to add the 800, you add
Okay.
800 square feet or up to 800 square feet so that the floor area ratio is obvious to everyone. We're not hiding any
Got it.
floor area.
So you get a bonus
You
if
get a
you add
bonus
an
every year,
ADU.
but it's counted as floor area.
Right.
And that's for, at the moment, addition projects, not new homes.
Okay. So you get a bonus if you add an ADU. And I think we discussed as a commission that, and I'm not saying that this is the case with the applicants, but that those ADUs might be misused and they might be used as a portion of the main residence. But that was a compromise that we were willing to make in order to increase the availability of affordable units in Larkspur. So I just wanted to kind of address that, and that this is not just sort of some ad hoc decision that we're making, but this was discussed in a public process, in a public meeting. And we've sort of based our decisions and our rules on that. So I just wanted to get that sort of out of the way before we start discussing this project.
Well, we don't have any ministerial rules that disallow it, which is a state law. And unfortunately, we don't really, just like, a lot of planning, affordable housing, the Larkspur plan, we just don't have ministerial rules that say we can ignore that as a state law. So that being said, Tamara.
I had some notes to say the exact same thing, and I think Commissioner Campbell said it a lot more eloquently than I ever could. So thank you for saying that. And this comes up a lot, and there's a lot of complaints about why we allow so many ADUs and JADUs. And I think as the late council member Carol once said in one of our meetings was, if you disagree with this, or you like it, or you don't like it, you shouldn't, this is why you should get out and vote. And it matters what happens in Sacramento, because this is how it affects us here in the city.
Okay.
And
Now,
if I'm
wait.
understand it, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, in this particular case, the JADU square footage actually counts in the FAR because you can't have both. So they could have gotten an additional 250 square feet if they'd had an 800 square foot ADU. And in any case,
Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you. All right.
So I also had a comment about the FAR discussion. And one of the things I think that, I've only been on this commission a little over a year, but one of the things that I have learned is how technology in building has changed so dramatically over the years. And that's, our FAR rules predate that. And so that's why a lot of exceptions, I think, get made, is that technology is different in how buildings are made. Going back to, since I guess I'm first.
Yes.
So Mr. Holmes raised a question about the ADUs and the doors. I believe he's incorrect, but I wanted to confirm that.
So the JADU has a connecting door, but that's allowed. The ADU is its own completely separate unit, so it does meet the requirements of the building code.
Okay, it's the one that's the 30A entrance door, I believe.
I would defer to
It's on the side.
the actual number.
and since the JADU doesn't count, it could be just square footage
Right.
anyway.
So for me, the only real concern I have is the concern that 123 Pepper has about the roof line increasing from the current 113.5. So what I would like to know, maybe from the architect, is if you can bring it down a 1.5 feet. I don't think the kitchen ceiling needs to be dropped 3 feet, but maybe I'd understand construction. But if you can keep the roof line the same for their view and adjust something, within the house.
And just to add on to that, the drawings are so tiny, I can't read the plate heights. So I don't know what the plate height is in the kitchen, which is what we're talking about. And maybe the architect can answer that. And then you have the roof slope goes up from there to whatever it is, 5 and 12 or 4 and 12. But it looked like they were 9-foot plates, like 9'6".
13.5 feet maximum ceiling height is only at the
peak.
pitch. You guys need to confer with the client about the bridge height change.
Any other comments?
I would just say, I mean, other than that, I do think it's a nice design. I think it's an improvement of the look of the house. I kept looking at it going, where's this garage that is existing right now? It's clearly hidden way deep in, but yeah, no, I think it's, you know, with a minor height change that I think it's a really nice looking design, and I would make the findings for the design. Me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I do agree with Commissioner Hull on the design. I think it's an attractive design. I don't think it's too bulky and it's compatible with the neighborhood. I think it's really, really nice. For the non-conforming structure exception permit, I think since it's not exacerbating the non-conformance, I could make the findings for that too. For the heritage tree removal, I understand why it's been requested because it's come really directly from the fire department. It sounds like my understanding was that you're going to try and save the trees if you can. And if you can't, they will be replaced with the jacaranda trees. I would request that this would be put in as a condition, and if it's not already, that we have that clarified in the if whatever approval or conditions that we make eventually. When it comes to the FAR, so I guess this is not exactly under FAR, but it does come in with kind of dimensions. If you can, it sounds like it was either an error in the staff report or error in the plans. I'm not really sure where that discrepancy came up between the 113 and the 115. From what I heard, the 113 sounds like that would be an acceptable number. So I don't know how you get down from 115 to 113. I'd want to hear a little bit further. I'd like to hear from Commissioner Wagstaff as well, as if he had thoughts on that. But I'd like to hear further on what could be done with the height of the ridge line, the roof line. And then on the FAR, I think somebody made the comment about this is a pro-development commission. I think that's probably accurate. We since I've been on it, we probably are, and I think maybe that's because of today's age and what, you know, it's so expensive to build, and families are coming into our city, and they do want to use the land that they want to build on. And as a result, I think the commission has been responsive to the community when they're trying to build on their properties. However, especially when it comes to sloped lots, I think Commissioner Campbell had explained that sometimes you just can't build anything that's feasible. So there is a subcommittee that's looking at what the rules currently are, whether or not they should change or not, and how they should change. But having said that, we can't go too far. We can't completely change the character of this city, and we can't build things that are, and I know there are a couple of properties that are probably way too big than they should have been. So going up to 155 is a large jump. So I would be open. I guess I'm just going to hear what the rest of the commission said. If that had to be sort of squeezed down a little bit, I'd be open to it, but I don't feel that strongly about it because I do think it's a beautiful property and it's still mostly within the footprint. And I think if we can address the roof ridge, that would probably be sufficient. So that's what I'll say for now, and I reserve comments for later.
Okay. Well, I think it's a handsome house that the way it's been done. I never have been a big fan of mansard roofs, and it's really nice to see a house that expresses the roof lines in a way that's clean and nice. So I think I could support the floor area ratio, but what was recommended or was talked about was reducing it to approve at the existing FAR, which would require a reduction of 175 square feet. Is that correct? That was in the staff report.
Yes, that is correct. And in the conditions of approval, there is a sort of a highlighted section that would, but yes, the 175 square feet would bring the primary residence to the existing primary residence size.
So I would support that reduction. And in terms of the non-conforming structure exception permit, I think that's okay. Heritage trees, if you could leave the trees in place, that would be my option. No matter what you plant, it's going to take a long time, even planting big trees to accomplish the same thing. But if the fire department is pushing it, maybe that's what we have to do. So, so with those in mind, I could make the findings.
About the kitchen.
Yeah, what about the roof ridge?
Oh, so
Roof line?
there are 9-foot plates in the kitchen presently, and I think you could lower, it's a peaked roof, so you could lower the plates down even to 7, 6, or 8 feet, and maybe the roof pitch lowers a little bit too. But I think you could get to a point that would work for the neighbor, and I'd like to see that done. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I've already kind of spoken generally, but I generally agree with Brock. I think reducing the floor area to what it is now, plus an ADU as allowed by state law, I think that makes sense to me. It's a large house. It's a already non-conforming, so I think that would make sense. And really, it's a relatively modest reduction, I think, given the scale of the project. And I also would like to see those trees stay, but the fire department gets what they want. So, but yeah, I think everything else I agree with.
Okay, I think I agree with everything everybody here has said. I would like to see the roof line go down. I think 10 feet is adequate for a kitchen. I mean, that's big. It's a lot. It's a high kitchen. So I think that I would make the findings if the roof line the plate height was reduced and the kitchen height was reduced to something which was compatible with what the neighbors would like to see. I'd also like to see 175 or whatever it was square feet taken out. Now that could come from the JADU, it could come from a variety of places. But again, as far as the trees go, I guess we would probably need to go back to the fire department to ensure that they in fact are insisting on that. Otherwise, I think jacaranda trees are nice, but it is going to take a long time for them to grow to the height that the sycamores are now. And I would prefer that the sycamores were left, if possible. So that's what I think.
So is that something that we could give direction to staff, or and the applicant can modify the plans to meet those requirements? And yeah.
So they wouldn't have to come back, or they would have to come? Okay.
Okay. Does somebody?
Do you want to reopen it and allow them a response?
Sure. I mean, as the owner, you can come back when you go ahead and make a comment.
Can you go to the podium though, so we can hear you?
Yeah, I just note, it sounds like we're down to really the ridge line and the 13.5. And I don't know I don't know what was up with the staff report or what the issue is there. But I will say that the 13.5 is the very top.
Mhm.
So it's just the top, and it's only 2 feet higher than the existing ridge line.
Right,
So-
but that's what your neighbors are having an issue with, that it's 2 feet higher than, so it seems like it's a reasonable compromise to bring that down to make people happy.
I agree with that. I just say that it'd be nice to have somebody go out and verify that the neighbors are being affected here. When they cut down this much hedge to magnify the impact.
Right.
That doesn't feel good to me.
Well, okay, they're saying that they're affected, so.
That's
I mean,
true, they're saying.
Right.
Because they cut the hedge.
Well, except, all right, well, that's a different issue, but, all right, well, thanks, appreciate it. Sure.
Jessica as the architect. So there were images from the real estate listing in the staff report documents of views from 123 Pepper. Did you all see those images? So there's one particularly kind of overlooking the pool,
It's in there.
and it shows kind of the existing ridge lines of 30 Loma Vista. And so if you look at the existing ridgeline to remain, and then also look at the proposed elevation, you see that this 115-foot ridge that's proposed is still well below, like it's not blocking the TAM view.
No, I don't think that's their point.
Okay.
Yeah, I
It's
think,
just that.
yeah, it's not blocking the entire TAM view, but it's taking some of the view away. Yeah, that's their point, I think.
And I don't believe Larkspur has.
No,
a
it does not.
View ordinance.
Correct, it does not. All right, so would somebody like to, how do you want to make a proposal for this? Elise, let's move on. Can you guide us in how to make the proposal with the changes that we suggested?
So in the resolution, I would accept that modification to it's one of the first couple of conditions of approval that has a highlight for the floor area to be reduced. And then I think you could keep the other requirements simple, just to keep the roof ridge no greater than the height of the existing residence, if that's what you're asking for.
Yes. Brock, would you like to do that
Yes.
as the architect in our?
Okay. I would move approval with what should we say? Staff
Condition
review of minor changes. To PLN 24058, including design review, floor area ratio to be reduced by 175 square feet. And the roof of the kitchen to be dropped to existing roof height at that point, or?
I mean, I don't feel that strongly that it has to be exactly at existing,
I-
but
I don't either.
13.5 seems, ceiling height seems, I feel like there's probably a happy medium there, right?
Okay.
I don't know, what do you guys think?
At the kitchen height, it's about the roof line. I think the roof line shouldn't go higher.
Right.
What goes on
Oh,
underneath that doesn't matter to me.
These things-
What
Go
matters
higher
to me
than
is the
what?
roof line.
Of the existing
But-
Of
roof
the,
line?
like, it shouldn't go any higher than the existing roof line.
And the existing roof line was 113, right?
113.5.
The highest peak of the existing roof line, because I think that's where the 113.5 is. It's not the same roof line at the back of the house. It gets lower at the back of the house.
Right,
Okay.
but that will affect the kitchen.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So with the existing roof height of the kitchen to match the roof height, the new roof height to match the existing. And heritage tree removal of 2 sycamore trees, unless they can figure out a way to save them.
Well, I think we agreed that they would be a condition of approval. They would replace the 2 trees.
Yes, that's,
Is that already in
It's in
there?
there. Yeah.
There.
Yeah,
No, we need,
it's
Fix
in the
them.
plans.
wait, sorry, Alex, said we need to add it or we
I
don't?
mean, you could add it, but there, it's
It's
part of their
already in their
landscape plan.
plans,
But to
okay.
be clear is that we make sure they're in there before we final it.
I thought I saw somewhere that maybe we needed to add that, but,
And to
Okay.
locate 2 new trees as indicated on on the site plan.
Very good. We have a vote, please.
I second that.
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell,
Yes.
Commissioner Swisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalmers,
yes.
and Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
The motion carries unanimously. There is a right to appeal the decision to the city council by filing an appeal form and the appeal fee within 10 calendar days and providing it to the city clerk.
All right. All right. Thank you very much for anybody who came out for this. All right, the next, let's see. Next item on the agenda is 26 Baltimore Avenue, APN 021-171-07. Application PLN 24-061, Polsky Pearlstein Architects, applicant R1 First Residential Zoning. It's a request for a demolition of the existing residence and the construction of a new 3,387 square foot, 2-story, single-family residence with an attached 640 square foot accessory dwelling unit and an attached 542 square foot garage. So it is for design review for a new residence, a slope use permit for 400 cubic yards of cut and fill, a lot coverage variance, 43%, 3,225 square feet, where 40% or 3,000 square feet is maximum permitted. A floor area ratio exception for 0.53 FAR, 3,963 square feet, where 0.4, 3,000 square feet is the maximum permitted. 606 square feet is below grade basement, is not included in the floor area, and ADU is included in the floor area. Just to be clear, the ADU is included in the floor area. Fence height exception, an 8-foot fence along eastern property line where 6-foot maximum is permitted. Can we have the staff report?
Yes, and I'm gonna do my best to keep it brief here for
Mhm.
you. So yes, as you noted, this is PLN
Oh,
24.
actually, before we get going, I think given the time, we're gonna need to continue the 111 which I have to recuse myself from anyway, personally, because I live right next door, 111 Wiltshire Avenue, to the next meeting. I'd like to
We
make a
do that
motion
right
to
now?
continue D,
I don't know.
for people who are here for that, who want to go home, yeah. Because
Second that.
this may take a while, item C.
Just because you're recused, maybe have someone else make the
Yeah,
motion to continue.
okay.
I'll
What
move
else?
to, I'll move to continue 111 wheelchair because I don't think we're going to get to it.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
Yes.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes. Do we have to say a date?
Oh, yeah, if you could continue it to the next
To
meeting.
the next meeting.
To the next meeting, yes.
24th.
Is there
24th.
room, is there room in the
June
next?
24th.
Is there room in that
Yeah.
agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is, okay, June 24. Okay, you're taking a
Yes.
roll call?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Chalmers.
Yes.
And Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
The motion carries to continue it to the next meeting.
Okay.
All right, so back to staff report for item C.
Okay, just a moment here. All right, so yes, PLN 24061 for 26 Baltimore Avenue. There we go. So the subject site is located at the intersection of Monte Vista and Baltimore Avenue. It's pretty close to the multi-use pike pathway to the east. It's about a 7,500 square foot rectilinear lot. The project seeks to demolish the existing residence and construct a new 3,387 square foot, 2-story residence with an attached 542 square foot garage and attached 640 square foot ADU. As designed, this requires the approval of design review, a floor area ratio exception, a slope use permit, a variance, and a fence height exception. I've got the site plans here for you. On the left is the actual site plan, and then on the right is their landscaping plan. The home would be in the same general location as the existing home, located centrally on the lot, though it would expand beyond the bounds of the existing home. There is a new pool proposed on the northern property line that does meet the setbacks. And they are proposing a number of replanted trees. I believe there's 8 crepe myrtles that will be planted as street trees, and then 4 lemon and 4, oh, I can't read my notes, but 4 other trees. I can get you the type in just a moment. And then here are the floor plans. They do include a basement at 606 square feet. As the chair noted, this is entirely below grade and doesn't count against the allowed floor area. The first floor does include the ADU, which, because it is a new residence, does currently count against the allowed floor area. And then here's the second floor with bedrooms and restrooms. And then here are the elevations. On the top is the view from Baltimore, and the elevation on the bottom would be the view from Monte Vista. And then here's the rear elevations on the top, and on the bottom would be the view from the neighboring property at 16 Baltimore. And the project architect has provided a number of renderings. On the left is the renderings without landscaping, and on the right is the renderings with the landscaping shown. So the project does require approval of a floor area ratio exception. It is a flat lot, so it does get the base floor area ratio allowance of 0.4. They are requesting a floor area ratio of 0.53 or 3,963 square feet. It would be the 4th largest floor area of the surrounding 45 properties. And again, the basement is not included in that calculation. And the average FAR in the neighborhood is 0.37. The project requires a lot coverage variance because it proposes a lot coverage of 43%. However, without the ADU included in that calculation, it would be 38%. And so, as mentioned in the staff report, the current ADU ordinance does not provide a lot coverage bonus to ADUs constructed at the same time as the residence, but there will be an ordinance with revisions returning to this body that may change that in the future. So on that basis, because the main home meets the lot coverage requirement, staff is supportive of the lot coverage variance. And it will require 400 cubic yards of cut in order to dig out the basement and the pool and level off the area for the proposed garage, which does trigger the need for a slope use permit. And actually, I want to go back there. I do just want to note there is a finding that I put in the staff report about the slope use permit about the first finding for a slope use permit is that you are not affecting the view of a ridge. And based on a photo I had seen from a neighboring property, it appeared that the entire view of Christmas Tree Hill was being blocked, but I did go out to the site this afternoon and there is still some view from that property. So I would maybe revise that to say it's not being entirely removed. And the project does require a fence height exception. I think there was a discussion between 26 Baltimore and their neighbors at 16 Baltimore who asked for an 8-foot high fence along their shared property line. You can see the design of the fence on the right there. And the other thing I do want to note is there is a 6-foot fence proposed on the street side yard, which is the Monte Vista Avenue frontage. This was not mentioned in the staff report. But because that's a street side yard, it does still have the same height limitations as a front yard. So it does need the fence height exception to go beyond 42 inches. In both cases, staff is supportive of the requested height increase. And as I've noted in the staff report, staff does have concerns about the project, the scale and the aesthetics of the residence. Staff does not believe are in keeping with the overall character of the surrounding neighborhood. And as the project's currently designed, staff cannot make the findings to support the FAR exception and would recommend that the home is reduced so that the home meets the 0.4 FAR allowance plus what is allowed for the ADU, which again, similar to the lot coverage, would be what would be allowed in the future should that revised language be installed in the municipal code. You've received a number of public comments about this. There's been 11 comment letters in total. You've had 3 in favor. One of those had signatures from 6 additional properties, all citing that they are in favor of the application. And you've had 8 that are opposed to the design. General notes on the opposition are similar to staff's concerns, the scale of the projects and the aesthetics as it would impact the surrounding neighborhood. And the support letters, kind of on the other hand, note that the design is pleasing and believe it would contribute to the overall neighborhood. So in conclusion, staff recommends that the commission hold a public hearing, take public comment, and continue the application, recommending that the applicant reduce the scale of the structure, meet the allowed FAR plus the size of the ADU, and consider designing a residence in a similar aesthetic to the overall neighborhood. Alternatively, you could discuss the project and direct staff to return at a future meeting with findings and conditions of approval to support the project as designed, or you could deny the application. So that concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions, and you've got the project owner and architect here as well. Thank you.
I have a question.
Sure.
So for the cut, I understand that you're the pool, but is the rest of it because they're trying to create a basement that wasn't there before? Is that the idea?
Yeah, there's a cut for the pool and for the basement, and then a little bit for the floor of the garage.
Okay. So they're putting in a whole floor underneath the house. Is that my understanding?
Yes, yeah, there's a 606 square foot basement that's being proposed.
606 square feet. And does that all count towards the FAR, or is some of it's below
Basement
grade?
entirely below grade and doesn't count against the FAR.
Entirely. Okay. Right. Thank you.
All right, could we please have the architect and or applicant, Mr. Polsky?
Good evening. My name is Jared Polsky, and I'm here with my associate Laura Van Omberg and with my client Abid Mojtabai. First of all, I want to thank staff for the report. That said, we do disagree on a few important points, and I'd like to clarify if I may. First of all, on page 1, we're not asking for a 53% FAR. The code is in the process of changing. We're asking for a 44% FAR because the ADU, if you discount the ADU. The state of California clearly recognizes that we have a severe housing shortage, as we've been talking about, and requires all jurisdictions to not count the square footage of ADUs against the floor area ratio mandated in the floor area calculations, period. The 640 square foot ADU should not count against the FAR. The house will not be significantly larger than the neighbors, as noted on page 2. The proposed house will have a 1,491 square foot at the first floor and 1,290 square foot at the upper floor. The house itself will therefore be 2,781 square feet, which is not huge. Over and above this 2,751 square feet, we are proposing a 542 square foot garage, 2-car garage, and the ADU. The basement, as staff noted, is totally underground, totally below grade, and does not add to the bulk or the FAR numbers. The house plus garage will have a 44% FAR, about the 10th highest in the neighborhood list, as noted on the attached chart. And in fact, as we reviewed the historical FARs in the neighborhood, we noted that the FARs and square footage numbers are not current. We know of a number of projects, some recently completed, that have much larger floor areas. This is an old calculation from the county. Clearly, the average is higher than noted, and this proposal will have a lower FAR than 12 to 15 other homes in the neighborhood. In fact, counting some of the recently completed houses, about a third of the neighborhood has FARs over 40%. Staff noted on page 2 and 3 that the windows on the north side will have higher sills, but the windows on the east side will have 30-inch sill heights. All the bedrooms windows have 30-inch sill heights, so we weren't sure where that comment came from. That's pretty standard for residential construction. There's only going to be one narrow corner window at the rear of this new house that faces the corner of the rear yard of the east neighbor. Page 3 of the staff report notes that the house will block a prominent scenic view of Christmas Tree Hill from the east neighbor's rear yard. At present, there's an existing 12-foot-6 high garage sited at the common property line, and the proposed house is lower than the existing house. Also, the proposed house is actually sited farther south, away from the neighbors, from the existing house, farther south than the existing house. Plus, there's a huge tree on Monte Vista that now blocks most views to the west. So you can see from the neighbor's zoomed-in photograph that there is really no scenic ridgeline view. The proposed house does not block a prominent scenic view, as staff has noted. On page 3, the report notes that there will be 2-story walls facing the neighbors to the east. On this point, I want to be very clear. This house has no exterior 2-story walls. We have stepped back all the walls, all on all 4 elevations, no 2-story walls. The east wall steps back 9'2". The west wall steps back 13 feet. The front steps back 7'9", and the rear steps back 7'7". In other words, the second floor walls are stepped back away from the first floor walls. We gave very careful thought to the massing of this project. The second story at the east side, next to the adjacent neighbor, is designed to be 21'2" away from their west wall, almost twice the setback one would expect with a 6-foot setback. On page 4, staff supports the minor lot coverage variance, in essence following state law, noting that 43% lot coverage must be reduced to 38% when the ADU coverage is subtracted. On page 3, the report goes on to say that the design results in, and I quote, "an attractive and visually cohesive residential structure." We think so. Cohesive, internally consistent, not oversized, but staff and some residents just do not agree with the style of the building. We met with many of the neighbors during our design process. We made massing and material changes to respond to some of their comments. And some neighbors expressed concern about the loss of the 3 large trees. We spoke with the fire department before the purchase of the property. And we're told that the 3 trees must be removed as part of any new construction. We understand that some people see this neighborhood as a collection of traditional styled homes. That's not quite true. This neighborhood is a diverse collection of house styles. We understand that some people believe that a modern style home should not be allowed in this neighborhood. And one can see letters expressed with this sentiment. But you also can see letters from more than 7 local homeowners in support of the project. As an architect, I do not think there's one way to build. I've been working in Larkspur for 43 years. We have had very diverse collection of clients. Some want a traditionally styled house, and I love that. And some want contemporary styles, and frankly, I love that too. There is no one right answer, but we should respect and honor diversity. Laura and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have, and I know that Aviv would like to say a few words. So any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Main issues, how is it that what they say and what you say are very different?
But the ADU county?
Yeah, just about, you made about, I think you made about 5 points where
Yes.
you have material differences with what the staff report is.
Right.
And, we don't need to enumerate them again because you pointed them out quite nicely, but I guess I'd like the staff to respond to what your material points were regarding the differences with what they have reported versus what you're saying, because it's confusing to me.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, I will. On that 2-story wall, I think that comment, I was looking at that'd be the east elevation where the roof is omitted. But he is correct. It is the second story is stepped back from the wall plane of the first story. On the square footage of the ADU and how it counts against the FAR, this has been a point of contention between staff and the applicant. And just, I think in general, staff's position is that the municipal code is very clear that an ADU currently, as it's written, ADU square footage is not given as a bonus to the floor area if it's combined at the same time as if it's constructed at the same time as an existing home, and that the entire project should be held to the FAR requirement if it's brand new.
So let me stop you there, because you're saying state law is such that it allows that.
Yes.
And you're saying municipal law is such that it's
We
not.
agree that we would never recommend denying an 800 square foot ADU. Like, we're complete agreement. The ADU is recommended for approval and we don't have any design review authority over it. The main house could be reduced in size. That's where we're disagreeing. So the applicant is saying that we should allow an extra bonus for the house because of the ADU, and that's not what state law requires.
Okay. You want to respond to that?
Well, I think what the state law says is that you should allow that extra square footage of the ADU as to not count against the FAR. I think we're saying the same thing, but
Well, you're sort of not. I mean, what you're saying is that the 800 square feet should be subtracted from the allowable FAR, and you're saying that the 800 square feet is completely allowed, provided that your FAR does not exceed the municipal code. Those are 2 totally different things.
And if it needed to exceed the municipal code, we'd allow it to, but it doesn't need to exceed the municipal code as brand new house.
So it's discretionary.
The size of the main residence is
Correct. Yeah, that's what I'm
discretionary.
saying. It's discretionary. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I am referencing the north and east elevation on A2.2. I think that was the corner window that you were
Right.
discussing that I measured as a 2'6" sill height.
It is.
Yes, that's what the finding says.
So maybe I misunderstood. It sounded like you were saying that the windows that look to the north had lower sill height, had higher sill heights.
No, I think my finding, well, hopefully it was clear, was that a number of the windows have high sill heights and respect privacy. It's just that corner window that looks into the rear yard that has the lower sill height.
You know, my understanding was a number of windows don't have a higher sill height,
Wait, that's not an issue.
but I don't think that's an
I-
issue.
It sounds like
It's
a
not an
non-issue.
issue.
So
But
then
the final one was the
The view, and I
There we
think
go.
Alex already addressed that.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Okay.
it may not, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for doing that.
All right, ma'am.
Oh, wait, is he still? Oh,
No, he was
he's finished.
Yeah. Yeah, he was done.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the commission and the staff. I know Alex and Elise, you put a lot of time on this project, so really appreciate all of your efforts. I just wanted to first introduce myself and then also just provide some perspectives about a few of the concerns that were raised by some neighbors, and Alex referred to them as well. My name is Ovid Mochtaboyi, and I've lived in Marin County and specifically in Kentfield for over 30 years, 34 years. And when we moved to Kentfield, pretty much all my free time was spent in Larkspur. I love Larkspur. I come to Ruli's 6-7 times a week. We dine in Larkspur 4-5 times a week. I walk in Larkspur. I hike Madrone Canyon. And my dream was always when I retire, I would live downtown Larkspur, close to walking distance, close to all the places that I spend my time. And a year ago, when the opportunity came up to purchase 26 Baltimore, I felt like my dream has come true. And now I could move down here and live in this beautiful city. So a few just perspectives. I absolutely want to acknowledge that the house is a modern style house. Frankly, myself, 20 years ago, my dream house was more of a traditional house. And like many other people, there's more attractiveness for different reasons, and people have different perspectives. There's a diversity of perspective around the kind of home you want to live. But wanting to live in Larkspur and the dream of living in a more modern house, I don't think that makes me a bad neighbor. I don't think that makes me a bad person, where some of the neighbors have been insinuating that that's the case, that I don't love this city just because of the style of house that I would like to request a permission to build. The second, and then the other thing I also wanted to comment on is it's true that a number of neighbors and the staff are recommending against the style of the house. But I also want to reiterate what Alex mentioned. And what Jared mentioned. I think there's letters and comments from over 10 or 9 homes in the neighborhood who are saying the diversity would actually add to the aesthetic of the neighborhood. So I don't think it's a uniform opinion of everyone in the neighborhood that the style of the house detracts from the neighborhood. Some people actually think that it adds to the aesthetic, and diversity is not always bad. Sometimes it's different, but it's not necessarily bad. The second thing I wanted to comment on is in the conversations that I've had, and I've met with many of my neighbors. Jared has met with many of them one-on-one. We invited many of our neighbors to Jared's office to preview some of the earlier versions of the design. And one of the comments was there's just construction fatigue from what's happening in Baltimore Park. There's a lot of homes that are being built, and regardless of the style, people just don't want any more construction. But the fact is, this house is a 1940s house that was neglected for probably 25 plus years. And whether it's me or someone else, there's going to be construction on this lot. So regardless of whether it's modern, whether it's a wood construction, whether it's a traditional house, there's going to be construction because whoever gets this property would probably need to do something. It's not built to code, and it's really not, it's been neglected. It wasn't taken care of for many, many, many years. Jared also mentioned we did meet, and I personally spent a lot of time with our neighbors. Ideally, I would have wanted to build a house that would be fireproof with what's happening in Los Angeles, with what's happening in Northern California. My hope was if I'm building a new house, it would be fireproof. Neighbors wanted more wood, so we've added wood cladding. We really thought about how do we minimize the second story. There's already a second story on this house, but how do we make it minimal? Per the request of one of my neighbors, we've added an 8-foot fence, which is one of the variances that was named as one of the concerns about the house. And some of the other neighbors who didn't know it was a specific request from a neighbor has raised that as an issue as well. But I just want to iterate that, I'm not a spec developer. I'm not coming to this neighborhood to build the maximum square foot and sell it for huge amounts of money and go and not care about the neighbors. No, I want to live in this neighborhood. I care about this neighborhood. And again, just because I'm requesting a different style of construction, I hope that that doesn't make me ineligible to be able to live in Larkspur. And then the last thing I also wanted to comment on is the FAR. Just as a point of reference, and to add to Jared's comment, I totally understand the policy that the approach that Larkspur has taken. The only thing I wanted to bring to all of your attention is the FAR study chart that looks at the 0.53 FAR relative to the FARs in the neighborhood. It's really not apples to apples, because the FAR for my project includes the ADU, but the FAR for what's listed there does not include necessarily the ADUs. So one example is frankly the house on 14 Monte Vista. The chart refers to that house as a 1,200 square foot house and a 0.17 FAR. The fact it's a 5,100 square foot house that just finished, and the FAR is significantly over the 0.4. So just as you think about the FAR, and is this really the third largest project in the neighborhood? It's not, because the chart is not apples to apples and it's not updated. And one of the neighbors who actually wrote against the project, raising the concern that my project has very high FAR, that would be the neighbor at 40 Monte Vista. The FAR for their house on that chart is 0.46. Now, I'm not saying it's a huge house and it shouldn't be there, because there's mature landscaping around that house. So when you drive up Baltimore, you actually don't think of that as a oversized house. But as you look at my plans, you're not seeing mature landscaping around it. So my request is, as you think about this project, also think about what it would look like when there is actually landscaping around the house. So thank you again for your consideration. I know it's not an easy role that you are playing, and very grateful for looking at my project. And I hope that you would take all sides of all different perspectives into consideration as you think about the project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Merci. All right. Oh, time for public comments.
Hi, my name is Tina MacArthur, and I live at 110 Baltimore with my husband, Richard Rubenstein. And I've lived at that address for 40 years, and I love Baltimore Park. I was one of the 4 people who was instrumental in saving the bike path, which could have been 24 homes many years ago. So I do not come from the position that building for building's sake is a great idea. Preserving quality structures is a good thing, but the beauty of a neighborhood is diversity in architecture. If you look at Creekside and Rose Lane, they are perfectly fine neighborhoods, but they lack quality architecture and have very little of any soul. Rarely does one see anybody outside of these homes, and all of the buildings look the same. Both of these neighborhoods serve a purpose, but they are soulless. Baltimore Park has always been a welcoming neighborhood. There wasn't a meeting arranged for neighbors to come and meet Avid and hear all of her proposal. And one particular party who has wanted to leave Baltimore Park for many, many years was very verbal against this property. So that said, I really feel that good, exciting architecture should not be frowned upon. There are some tear down houses in our neighborhood that hopefully will come down soon and rebuilt in the years to come. Change is inevitable. And whether Avid builds her dream home or not, this house is obsolete and will come down at some point, just like she said. She has great taste and the ability to construct something special while caring for the environment. I urge you to vote in favor of this project, and several residents on this 100 block of Baltimore are in approval. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. Next.
Good evening. I'm Tom Siemens. I live at 112 Monte Vista, which is the house next door to the north. First, I just want to say that, we've lived in our house for 15 years, and Avid's been nothing but, very, very understanding when we asked, can you not block our sun with your construction? Can you not build high hedges? Because that cuts off our southern exposure light, right? So she's been very thoughtful and listening to us and paying attention, and we appreciate that. But I think more importantly, my take on this is we just suffered through 2 years of the construction at 116 Monte Vista, right? Which is the giant house that, 5,100 square feet plus 800 on a 7,500 foot lot. So we just suffered through that. They just finished. Now we get to have a construction on the other side of us. It is what it is. But what I don't want is another spec, builder to come in because she gets turned down on this and she decides to sell the property, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get another spec builder who's going to come in and maximize the size for maximum profit. And that's what I don't want, because the guy who built to the north of us was a jerk, and it's like, we don't want to go through that again. So that's my take on it, is just being next door. I think you should consider her plan. I think it's very fair. And living right next door, I mean, it's obviously, it's very important to me what gets built and how it's built. And I'm happy with the design. And I just don't want to go to another spec developer like the other one. Thank you.
Thanks very much. All right. Anyone else would like to make a comment?
I am Frank Lobanon, here with my wife, Sue Lobanon. We're at 16 Baltimore, so we're right next door. We realize that people have a right to build what they want, and the architect and Avid, they have been nice to work with. We've met with them on several occasions. She accommodated our request through the 8-foot fence. So we appreciate that. We also asked for a few other things, that they move the portable toilet away from the fence because it was going to be right next to our window. And so these are just a few things that we do appreciate. But we do, we are concerned though that the east elevation is, well, it's stepped back, but it's right kind of along the line of our family room and dining room and back patio. And it kind of looms over us. We had asked when we met if they could add some breaks, some relief, some changes on that elevation, but they really didn't quite make it to the plan. And we're hoping that that can be rethought. There's also some windows that look directly down into our main patio area that we were kind of hoping that that could be reworked so that we wouldn't have, somebody said earlier, light bleed, and also just general privacy concerns about looking down into our main patio area. The other thing that I'm a little bit concerned about is the loss of sun. There's a sun study in the plans. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I don't know if that takes into account the fact that a tree would block sun perhaps differently than a large building. So I think that we're going to be in the shade with this this particular design, and it might not be reflected in what the architect has put together. I don't know if there's a more sophisticated way to represent how we'll be in the shade, but I'm also kind of concerned that maybe because there's stucco and there's no relief on that side, we might also have the unfortunate situation where there's sun glare coming down on us. I don't know, but it could be that that happens. So I guess I would like to see the eastern side have a different treatment if this design goes forward. The mass is a concern. So if things could be brought down to within the floor area ratios that the district kind of specifies for R1, maybe that would help and kind of keep things a little more in scale, and it wouldn't feel quite as, kind of in our face. Because right now it's large. When the story poles went up, we were a little shocked. We actually called the architect because we thought there was a mistake, because we were thinking, oh, it's a flat single-story house on our side. They stepped back the second story, but it's pretty high. The story poles are higher than what we thought. So anyways, I'll end here, but I'm just kind of hoping that maybe things can be reworked to bring things down in scale, and so it's less impactful for our immediate property. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Hi.
My name is Catherine Arrow. I live at 1 Baltimore Avenue with my husband, Michael. We've been there for 34 years. And I guess I want to speak more to the FAR issue. And I think some of the people from the previous house that you were looking at really were quite eloquent about why we need to respect the FAR and not keep approving bigger houses over and over and over again. And one of the things that Mr. Polsky, I believe, said tonight is that in our Baltimore Park area, that 1/3 of the neighborhood exceeds the 40% FAR. 1/3. So does that mean when people come to buy, they love our neighborhood? It's a wonderful neighborhood. Every time I've come and listened at the planning commission about people who want to tear down an old house and then build something new, they love the neighborhood. But their house needs to be way bigger than everybody else's because they can't possibly live in a 2,500 square foot house. It's got to be a 3,500 square foot, a 4,500 square foot. And now what we have, a 5,100 square foot house? The character of our neighborhood is these nice, the homes are relatively, of similar size and height. And we just keep blowing up bigger and bigger. And I would hope that when people come to our neighborhood and they look at some of these houses that they want to tear down, that they don't always go, oh yeah, well, we're going to get a floor area ratio variance. We're going to be able to make this thing much bigger. People need to move to our neighborhood and say, this is how big a house you can get because this is what the city says. And if you like this neighborhood and you like the size of that lot, build on that lot. Hopefully I agree with the study, the staff study, that, I don't feel like the design really fits with the neighborhood. I don't mind a modern house, but somehow, the images I'm seeing feel medical office vibe-ish. Maybe it's the color or it's just kind of hard. And maybe just if there's a way to make it a little bit more friendly. perhaps, but so my issue is the FAR. And that's it. Thanks.
Anybody else? All right. Is there anybody on Zoom? No. All right. Let's bring it back to the Planning Commission then. And then we'll go back to the other side. Mr. Wagstaff.
I'm sure what other side.
Well, we went there, and then now we're going to go ahead.
Okay, so, I happen to like modern houses. I think neighborhoods, really don't have to have the same kinds of housing, through them. I would say that, I think the architect Jared has done a good job of actually not affecting the neighbor that much, with windows. The windows that are on that side on the east are two corner windows up on top and then pantry windows low down. So I don't think there's a privacy issue per se, but I do think it would be nice to have more detail on that side of the building rather than just a sort of monolithic stucco siding. I think there's opportunities to do something nicer.
Talk about the east elevation.
Yeah. So the coverage, I think you have to sort of, since we're allowing ADUs, that you take that floor area out of this building and it's pretty close to what would be allowed. I think if I understand it right, it's 0.44 if you don't count the ADU. I think it could be reduced to 0.4 and then it conforms, in my opinion. And I don't think that would be that difficult. So with a few modifications, I think I could make findings for the project.
I'm glad I don't sit on either of the ends. Now I'm gonna get to go first next time, right? Yeah, so I generally agree with Brock. The modern style of house, it's not the style that I would prefer if I was building a house, but it's not my house. And so, I think that, a diverse, people should be able to build what they want, generally within reason. And it seems like an attractive house, even if it's not the style that I would prefer. So that's sort of the design review. The slope use permit, I think that going below grade is a effective but expensive way to gain floor area. And if that's something that the applicant would like to do, then I don't have an issue with that because it doesn't really affect neighbors or people on the street or anything like that. So I'm comfortable with the slope use permit. And I guess I agree with Brock on the lot cover or the lot coverage variance because of the ADU. The fence height exception was requested by the neighbor, so I'm not going to object to that. And then the floor area ratio, I think I agree with Brock that if it was reduced by 0.04, so it complies without the ADU, that would be better. It's a large house. I mean, and when you add in the ADU, it's a big structure. So I think to the extent that we can reduce that, it sounds like we cannot reduce it below that, right? Because of the ADU, or there's a gray area.
You could certainly ask for that.
Right. But the issue with that is, so, if we require that it comply with 0.4 FAR now as a new construction, we could see a, removal of the ADU from the plan, construction of a house that complies with 0.4 FAR, and then later, in a year, in 2 years, construction of a separate ADU that would be ministerially reviewed.
And it could
So-
be 800
And
square
it could be
feet.
800
Yeah.
square feet. So with that, I think, if we can get it down by 0.04, I would be comfortable with that.
Okay.
2.0.
2.0.
Yeah.
0.4.
Yeah, they're
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
A little
Can
decimal.
I
Just- yeah.
jump in? Because the math doesn't make sense to me. It says that the 0.53 floor area ratio is 3963, but how do we get to 3963? Because it looks like 3963 is the square footage of the house without the ADU, without the garage, but adding the basement. That adds up to 3963. And I thought the 606 basement was not included. So is it not 3387 plus 542 garage is 3929, and then you would add the 640 square foot. So in the proposed project, you say the total, not including the basement, is 4569. If you include the basement, it's 5175. That's all
So-
an ADU garage basement house.
I get, let me do the math here. I think you may be correct here that they got swapped around. So 2131, which is the size of the first floor, minus 640, size of the ADU is 1491, plus a 1290 square foot second story, so 2781, plus a 542 square foot garage, 3323. So that would be 0.44 FAR.
Wait, at 3323? Okay, wait, run that by me again. So you've got the bottom floor is 1291. No, it's 2131. The second floor is 1291,
1290.
1290.
The first floor is 1491 if you don't include the
1491
ADU.
plus 1290 is 2781 plus 542.
Yes, so 3323.
3323.
Yes.
And that doesn't, and then you add,
The 606.
the 606 is not in there, but 33, so,
That would make up the 63 at the 606.
Yeah.
the 3323 plus the 640 gets you to the ADU.
It includes the ADU.
I mean, includes the ADU, so that's how you get to the 0.53, so that includes the ADU.
Material
Right,
addition
okay,
that you're discussing.
yeah.
Yes.
Correct? Well, the point is it comes up to 3963 because you're adding the ADU to that square footage of the house. Yes, am I correct? Okay. So that's the issue. And so it seems to be the concern is perhaps the house should be it should be including the FAR, including the ADU, but at the 0.4 allowable FAR. So that means that the rest of the house is going to have to be decreased by 600 and whatever square feet.
So I think staff's position is that the home itself should meet the 0.4
Correct.
FAR, which
Including
is
the ADU.
no, not including the ADU.
Not including
So
the
the
ADU.
home should be 0.4, which is 3,000 square feet plus a 640 square foot.
Okay, so
ADU,
3,600.
640.
Because it's a
And,
flat.
and the reason being that if we allow the ADU now, or we can allow the ADU now as a commission, or we can be forced to allow an ADU in the future
Right.
as by state law.
Right, but the way that the house is designed is such that that would be
Right.
a very different looking house.
It would be different, but
Yes, I get it. I understand.
And then the neighbors would have construction for another half
Yeah,
year.
yeah, exactly. So Tamara, did you have any more things to add? to that?
I don't like the design. I don't think it fits. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of the modern design in this neighborhood. I understand the diversity argument. I don't agree with it. I just don't think it fits. And so I am with staff on that one. I think that it needs to be a different design. In general, I hate flat roofs, but I'm trying to set that aside. I just don't think it fits in with the neighborhood. I think it's it's too big for what's around it, and it's a pretty prominent street. When I went to look at the house, traffic was being diverted off of Magnolia to go around some construction, and all these cars are going right by it, and I was just like, "Ugh, everybody has to look at this ugly design." But that's my personal opinion. And so generally, if somebody wants to do a modern house somewhere else, I would let it go. I just don't think it fits with the neighborhood. Since we're talking about design, well, actually, let me start by saying I probably fall in the camp of Commissioner Campbell and Commissioner Wagstaff. I agree with a lot of the points that you make. I actually had my views challenged because I never liked modern designs. I always was very, very traditional. And then the house opposite where I live, they tore it down and they built a house very similar to this, a very modern design, which I was expecting to hate. And it turned out to be beautiful. And I was really surprised at how much I liked it with lighting and trees and just it. So I have come around to understanding that people's tastes are different and a modern house can be beautiful. Surprised myself on that. So, having said that, the one east elevation, I think could do with a lot of improvement. I think the reason, I'm guessing that maybe why the windows are as they are is to stop a view, someone looking into the house next door. So there was probably some thought into where those windows were put, right? But and I'm not an architect, so I really can't make any kind of good recommendation. But if there's some aesthetic change that could be made to that wall so it's not such a straight up and down, that would be helpful. And yeah, I guess I don't need to spend more time talking about this. I guess I agree with
So wait, what would you?
on the variance for the lot coverage, slope use permit, and the FAR coming down to 0.4. On the fence height exception, it's not, I mean, I don't like fence height exceptions in general, but this one does make sense to me, and it's not on the street side.
Okay.
Actually, isn't it? There is one on the street side, isn't there? Having said that.
Yes. Yeah, it would be a 6-foot fence on the Monte Vista. It's not a continuous along the entire Monte Vista.
Why do we need one on the street side? Sorry if I missed this.
Because it's,
Closes their backyard. So that it's the side street for them. So they're on a corner lot. So the teller's fence on the side gives them privacy in their rear yard, which would be one that staff would support for that section of the yard.
we're talking about the front one.
I guess I'm in support of the side one that is requested by the neighbor because you can't see it.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's one that's going to be along Monte Vista.
Correct.
And it's just partial, but that's on the back side of the house. Oh,
They'll
because
pull
the
it up.
front is,
Can you
yeah.
see it?
Oh, I see. How?
Yeah, you have to have a certain.
What are they asking for, 6 feet?
So it's
Si-
on top of there's already a wall there. So it's a fence on top of the wall that levels out the yard. So but it's back from the wall. So it's measured at just 6 feet, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be 6 feet non-climbable. That's the rule for swimming pools, if that's what you're.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I see.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. All right. So I guess I'm up. Yeah.
And then just the last thing is
Okay.
I know I think it's 116 Monte Vista. It's that huge white house. Huge.
Yeah.
And I hope nobody else comes in here and says, because they built 116 Monte Vista, we want to build another house. I hope that never happens again.
Yeah.
I just want to make that statement.
Well, I think it's as far as 116 Monte Vista, it seems like kind of the wool was pulled over the eyes of the town as well as the planning commission and everything about that house. It's just clearly it was a spec house, and anyway, let's not go into that. That's not what we're discussing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, my aesthetic is kind of irrelevant whether I like modern houses or not. I do. I'm kind of like Brock. I think they deserve to be in a neighborhood with traditional houses because I think it makes a neighborhood interesting and diverse. Provided it's a nice design that fits into the character, not so much as the design, but the scale and bulk is more my concern. And, you look at the pictures, the renderings and if you look at like 16 Baltimore and 112 Monte Vista, this house looks big next to these houses. And I really appreciate people needing and wanting to build what they want to live in, and I totally support that. Um, so I think that I could make the findings if we bring down it to the FAR, because I think it will reduce the bulk a little bit of 0.4. So not grant the variance to the higher level, but go down to 0.4. And I think obviously it's going to require some redesign. But I think it'll maintain the character of the modern house, but at the same time reduce the bulk and the monolithic nature of the house. The other thing too, as obviously an architect does, is they make the exterior treatments of the house to make it look more blending in. And I think some of the issue that on these plans, because you want to make the house, stand out on the plans, is the choice of what your fixed, the colors and the various things like that. And I looked at your board on the end, and I do like what you've chosen. I think it's really nice. So I think some of what we're looking at is because of the way that it's rendered on the drawing. But I do think that it needs to be reduced in size and look less monolithic. So I could make the findings with the going down to the 0.4 as opposed to the
What is that
yeah.
reduction? Do we have a number?
Plus the ADU.
Yeah.
It's
That
really,
it?
yeah, it's really not that
That's
much.
really quite small, actually, yeah.
It's not that much, but enough to make it look a little less monolithic. I guess that's my concern.
How about I feel like we haven't really given much direction or discussion to this eastern elevation. I'm not an architect either, but it looks like there's sort of a roof line that doesn't continue across that might help break up that two-story wall. Is there any other guidance that we want to give to the applicants to?
I don't know. I think that's a design issue.
Right. No, it's
we
step
understand that.
back,
We
but
get it.
Just
We
look
get it.
monolithic, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure. I mean, this is a design thing. This is not our job to,
Design it for you.
design it for you. But I mean, the point, I think it is a good point for the neighbor there that it could have a sun glare problem unless you do something to break it up, and it could be with textural things. Unfortunately, you can't put plants on the wall anymore, which you used to be able to do, because we had to get rid of our really lovely trees on our house. It's like sucks. But yeah, you could do some things that would make that look less monolithic. But overall, again, my feeling is that it needs to be reduced to some extent.
Even material changes on that elevation
Yeah,
would help.
yeah.
So
Yeah, something to, work with the neighbors. So anyway, that's what I think.
Does the applicant need any more guidance from commission on this, or they have enough to work with? You do? Okay.
All right. So let's have a motion. Who's going to make a motion?
I'll move,
All right.
but do we want to move this to a date uncertain, or do we want to, I don't know how long it takes I guess it's what's on our agendas and how long they need to.
I mean, you could probably continue it to the next meeting.
Do you need more time?
If they need
Well,
more.
Do they need more time?
Sharon, what would you like?
Time.
Okay.
To a date uncertain then, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they will
Okay.
come back to you with a plan
Yeah.
and we'll
Okay,
discuss.
I move to approve, project number 24-01. Oh, sorry, yeah, I move to continue, project 24-061 to a date uncertain.
Oh, I'll second.
Commissioner Wagstaff,
yes.
Commissioner Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Swisher,
Yes.
Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes.
Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. So next, we're continuing item D, which is 111 Wiltshire Avenue. We already voted on that. I didn't because I have to recuse myself. Then the issue of the accessory dwelling unit ordinance.
I was going to ask you to continue that to
Yes,
July
I'll
8th.
continue. Well, we didn't say formally that we're going to continue. So yeah, make a motion to continue the following things.
I move to continue the accessory dwelling unit ordinance discussion to July 8th.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And 320 West Baltimore, also
And
to
I think we
continue.
could put it on the next meeting
To
and
June
hope that
24th.
they are ready to go, but
Yep. Okay.
I move to continue to continue the 320 West Baltimore Avenue topic to June 24th, 2025.
And the next
vote on it?
Do
item.
we need a second? I'll second that.
it's in favor.
All in favor?
Yeah. Aye.
And next item is,
The minutes will move that we didn't have any minutes to review yet.
yeah,
We haven't reviewed them.
yeah, we have not read them. So the next one is adjournment.
Oh, planning commissioners reports.
Oh,
Planning.
are there any planning commissioners reports?
No.
Wait, the next meeting is June 24, right?
And next meeting is June 24.
I have a report.
Okay,
Oh.
fair enough.
We're doing better on housing than the UK is.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
It's really interesting seeing the buildings there, which are
Old?
individual houses, but they're so weird.
Yeah.
Like you have,
Taking
you have
offense.
the master bath has, big tub, big shower. It has a sink about this big. You can barely get two hands in it.
With two faucets.
Yeah, right. It's
Not
just,
because it was built 200 years ago.
oh, these are
Some of
new.
them are new. Council housing.
Oh.
All right, well, let's make a motion for an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
In favor?
Yeah.
Yep.
Aye.
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 Yes.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.